No! Just right at the beginning there. How dare ya? But yes, hello. Hello, everybody. That threw me off. But hello, how is everybody doing? I just looked over and was like, oh, that's a lot of emotes. What's going on there? And it's like pre-scan. No. How's everybody doing today? Are you ready to judge a man for not calling his wife his pregnant wife? Hey, howdy, headset not on at the moment, doing some school stuff, but I'll be back. Okay. I'll do a big nod so that way you know it's okay. Hopefully that goes through. I don't know. Unless you have me on speaker, then in which case that works better. I don't know. Let me go ahead and get Higurashi open over here. I think we should be able to finish it today. Oh, I no, moved myself accidentally. But I saw that we only had like 2 chapters left, so in theory we should be able to finish it today. Fingers crossed. Okay, so let's see, load. Yeah. Now to see how everything will totally work out for this man's. 100%. Nothing bad is ever gonna come to him. That was my first time losing consciousness. You often hear of regaining consciousness on top of a bed, but this was my first time actually experiencing it. I'm good, how are you? I'm good as well. At first, today I was just like, I don't know if I have the energy to, but it's like, well, I usually get energy while streaming, so it's fine. But yeah, I'm good now. Hello? Are you okay? Realizing that I was awake, a young doctor called out to me. I didn't intend to respond, but it seems my body language had told him I was conscious. My head was wrapped up in bandages. The scratches all over my body had also been treated. My sense of pain also returned with my consciousness, causing me to groan from the intense pain shooting all throughout me. Don't try to get up. Just stay lying down, please. It seems like you took quite a few blows to the head. I want you to stay rested so we can monitor your condition for at least the next 24 hours. Where is this? This is my clinic. Pleased to meet you. My name is Iri. I remembered that this young doctor was the one in the car headed the opposite way earlier. Is there somebody here? Where's Oishi-san? Ah, I'll call him over. There's no smoking inside the clinic, so I had him smoke outside. Dr. Iri left the room to go call Oishi. The scenery outside the window was tinted with gold. The pouring rain had stopped, with the voices of the Higurashi heralding the cooling temperature. I felt that the tone of the Higurashi's voices was comforting. Eventually, I could hear heavy footsteps coming closer, which I recognized to be Oishi's. The fog that was enveloping my head slowly faded back to reality. What had happened since then? What had happened to the boy? What about the reinforcements from Tokyo? The door to the room flew open, allowing Dr. Iri and Oishi to enter. The little pre-scan. So there's no serious damage, is there? I can't promise that. I assessed the wound to his head was dangerous the moment I saw it. Got it. I want to have a little chat alone with him for a bit. Would you mind? Yeah, go ahead. Call me if anything happens. Oishi, after basically forcing Dr. Iri outside, shut the door. How are you feeling? I did something I'm not used to, so I'm pretty banged up all over it. Or all over. Oishi brought over a folding chair that was leaning against the wall and sat down beside the bed. Were the perpetrators arrested? Unfortunately, no. They've probably already fled the prefecture, or are being hidden by the villagers. Well, we won't let them get away. What about the minister's grandson? They're taking care of him at the station, but your colleagues from Tokyo are rather insistent that nothing be recorded. Shige-chan doesn't like that too much. The kidnapping was a confidential matter, so his custody was also probably being kept under wraps. How the kidnapping of the minister's grandson would be handled, how it would be covered up, treated like it would never happened, would be handled by the brass. If this case ended without the nation going into an uproar about it, then our job had been done. The possibility that the minister negotiated with the perpetrators couldn't be ruled out, but something like that was no longer my concern. My role in this case was over. Sorry for the trouble. You must think that public safety is rather unseemly place, don't you? No. We all work in the government's dime. Oishi laughed boisterously. When we first met, I was somewhat prejudiced against Oishi, but now that feeling was gone completely. It would be more convenient for us if this case was handled properly instead of being hidden away. If that happened, we would be able to have something to go at the Sonozaki family with, since they were behind it all. Well, if we just started poking around, we'll get all sorts of pressure put on us, though. What a mess. Are you going to continue the fight against the Sonozaki family after this? Nah. There's all sorts of dark rumors swirling around them, but it's not like I have a personal grudge. It'd be wise not to step on any toes here. Oishi laughed happily, and I couldn't help but laugh along. Oh, that's right. That's right. There was word at the station from the prefectural police. Your colleagues arrived at Nagoya, and are driving up here right now. You've got your battle scars, so you're being recalled to Tokyo, apparently. That's how it's shaking up. Good job. Your work in Okinomiya is safely over. I was being recalled to Tokyo. I inadvertently breathed a sigh of relief when I heard those words. I'm deeply thankful for your cooperation, Oishi-san. It seems the collaboration fee I paid you didn't go to waste. I kind of meant that as a joke, though. Oishi took out his wallet, casually pulled out several large bills and jammed them into the breast pocket of my shirt. This isn't a refund on the collaboration fee here. This is just me gifting you a little spending money. The booze around here is pretty good. Use this to buy yourself a little souvenir. Oishi flashed me a grin. If your injuries turn out to be not too serious, call me before you head back to Tokyo, will you? The old man and Sato-san said they'd like to sit at a table with you again. Oh my. I can't refuse that. And no tricks this time, just some plain old fun. They always say that. This world is done for if an active officer can cheat that blatantly. It's not often we can meet someone who's more than a match for us. It's too bad you're going back to Tokyo. When I heard the words going back to Tokyo from Oishi, I was reminded once again that I was relieved from my duties. Soon, Yukie would be giving birth. It might still be possible to attend the delivery that I had at one time given up on. When I thought that, the pain from my injuries became trivial. I wanted to hurry back to Tokyo and see Yukie at once. Can you pretend that your injuries are a bit more serious and hang around Okinomiya for a bit? I can introduce you to a few nice places. Of course, I won't make you pay for everything. I'm terribly sorry, but I'll have to take a rain check on that. My wife is due to give birth any day now. I want to hurry back home. Oh my. I didn't know that. Then you shouldn't be hanging around here. You have to hurry back home. For a while after that, Oishi asked all sorts of questions about my wife, teasing and bantering with me. Everything is totally fine. Nothing bad is happening. Well then, how do you feel? Think you can get up? Yeah, it's not so bad thanks to you. I can get up and walk no problem. I stood up and shuffled around for a bit, which seemed to amuse Oishi. Oh, Sinbad, how you doing? No, I just thought you might not feel comfortable at a hospital in Hinamizawa. Dr. Iri said he wanted you to stay overnight, but we still haven't caught the perpetrators. For the time being, this is enemy territory for you after all. You doing good? That's good. Are you saying the hospital isn't safe? Well, Dr. Edie is somebody who's well regarded in the community. I don't think anything will happen while you're here, but I'm more worried about your mental health. I had relaxed a bit now that things had progressed this far, but it was exactly as Oishi had said. When I realized that this was an enemy territory, I suddenly felt uncomfortable. But the only thing left for me to do was leave. The chance that I would come to harm was logically fairly low, but that didn't mean I was comfortably safe. That's right. If I'm just going to be lying down, then doing it in a hotel bed won't be all that different. Right. I also think that's for the best. At that moment, I caught a glimpse of the clock over Oishi's shoulder. It was the evening. The hours that I could call Yukie at the hospital were almost over. I wanted to tell her as quickly as possible that I would soon be back at her side. I want to call Yukie at the hospital. Is there a public phone in the lobby? You newlyweds are all like this. If I recall correctly, there's one by the register. I'll be waiting here, so go ahead. Oishi, laughing while saying that he was jealous, opened up the window and pulled out a cigarette even though he was in a hospital room. Appreciative at how considerate Oishi was, I set out to the lobby to find the phone. This is the first time he's calling his wife, folks. He's having a redemption. The lobby was just a short distance down from the hallway in the hospital room. I thought that this hospital was a bit too grand for a village like this, but of course it was nothing compared to the general hospital Yukie was admitted to. Running inside a hospital wasn't the best of manners, but calling hours would soon end, so I dashed over in a hurry. There was nobody else in the lobby. It may have been the evening, but there was nobody at the reception desk. Well, this might actually be lucky for me. I wasn't planning to have a conversation to feel guilty about, but it would still be embarrassing to have someone listen to a conversation between me and Yukie. Taking a quick look around, I soon found the payphone. Digging around in my pockets, I grabbed a few coins. I was calling Tokyo from here, so I would burn through this amount fairly quickly. I picked up the receiver and inserted a coin, then dialed the number for Yukie's hospital, which I had completely memorized at this point. Whirr. The number for Yukie's hospital had a lot of 8s and 9s, so dialing it inevitably took some time. Normally, it wouldn't be a big deal, but currently, any time was precious. However, I felt that something was strange as I was dialing in the number. I don't know exactly how to put it, but it was as if the receiver was too quiet. That unique white noise from the telephone line wasn't there. Somehow I felt I wasn't getting any feedback from the phone, and without feeling a response, I hung up the receiver to try again. The coin popped out from the return slot. I reinserted the coin and began dialing once again, but the receiver was still dead silent. What is this? Is it disconnected? While I was wasting time like this, the amount I had to spend talking with Yukie shrunk. I began to feel needlessly impatient. Excuse me. I felt the presence of someone at the other side of the glass, so I called out. There was an immediate response, and a man who seemed like a pharmacist came over. Yes, how can I help you? Pardon me. This phone seems to be acting a little strange. Could you take a look at it? The man came over and tried testing various things with the receiver pressed to his ear. Come to think of it, this was someone who worked at the hospital, not someone from the phone company. Just as I didn't know much about phones, neither would he. Huh? What's this? The man held up the cord that connected the phone to the wall. It was completely severed. What the heck is that? Well, this is a dilly of a pickle. Can't do anything with this until somebody from the phone company comes and fixes it. If you're looking for a phone, do you want to use the one in the office? I didn't want the people in the hospital office around while I was talking. Is there another payphone close by? Let's see. If you leave here and follow the road, you'll come out into the shopping district. I think there's a smoke shop on the corner around there. Still have to call his wife. Yes. I don't think he'll ever end up calling his wife. If you head out that way, you should be able to find one soon enough. I was dressed in a hospital gown. I was wearing sandals on my feet. My head was wrapped in bandages. Just looking at me, you could tell I was a hospital patient. No matter how I looked at it, I was not dressed to be wandering outside. But that's where the impetuousness of youth came in. I think that's the word. Choosing the chance to talk to Yukie for even a little longer, I headed outside in my current state. Follow the road to the shopping district. Should be able to find one soon enough. With only those 2 lines as my guide, I ran outside the gates of the hospital. With the village nestled in a valley, when the sun set, it got dark quickly. The sparse street lights lit up enough to start attracting moths. The Higurashi, knowing the time for their chorus was soon at a close, redoubled their fragile cries. Finding the payphone wasn't as easy as the person at the hospital had suggested. Was it still up ahead? Did I miss it already? Was I just getting farther away? Just as I thought I was about to be crushed by the wave of uncertainty towering over me, I found a shop in the corner with cigarettes written on a small sign. My joy spurred me onwards, just as I had heard at the hospital. Set next to the counter at the cigarette shop was an antiquated payphone. I wasn't wearing a watch, so I didn't know what time it was. I probably didn't have much time left, though. But it was enough. Just as long as I could tell Yukie my job was done and I would be coming home soon. Picking up the receiver, I slid a coin down the slot. But I felt that something was strange, just like at the hospital. Even after inserting the coin, the phone showed no response. I hung up the receiver and tried putting the coin in one more time. But there was absolutely no response. This phone was dead. It couldn't be. Thinking that, I felt along the cord that protruded from the back of the phone. Doing that, my hands found the end of the completely severed line. What is this? Having now had the same thing happen twice, my bafflement was accompanied by a sense of unease. It seemed that the cord had been severed cleanly by a sharp blade at some point. And I may be mistaken, but it didn't look like much time had passed since it was cut. Excuse me, hello? Opening up the booth window of the tobacco shop, I looked for someone in the dimly lit interior. Eventually, there was the sounds of somebody plodding down some stairs, and an old lady appeared. The old lady's plodding and lethargic steps, for some reason, only served to make me more frantic. You need some cigarettes? I'll need to get my husband. I'm not here to buy cigarettes. Rather, this phone here. Realizing that saying the phone was broken and asking them to take a look at it was going to get me nowhere, I swallowed back my words. Sorry, it seems that this phone is broken, and I was wondering if you could tell me where there's another payphone? The old lady moved her jaw up and down slowly, as if chewing on the meaning of my words. It seemed that she wouldn't understand until she had digested things thoroughly. So the phone is broken? That's a dilly of a pickle. You should try another payphone. The old lady directed me to another payphone that seemed quite a ways away. Her way of telling me was so long-winded that I inadvertently started to get impatient. At that moment, I spotted a cloak in the dim interior of the store, or a clock, rather. The minute hand was just about to point straight up. Even if there was a phone right here that I could use, I would only be able to tell Yuki good night with the time I had left. On top of that, my destination was a remote payphone, which I didn't know where the exact distance to. If I was in a normal state of mind, deciding to give up the phone today would have been the natural thought process. But at that moment, I was somewhat stubborn for some reason. Unable to use the phone in the hospital and coming out here and still being unable to use one. There was no mistaking that I had been quite insistent on using a phone. Thank you very much. I'll try looking for that phone booth. Refusing her offer to draw me a map, I left the tobacco shop. According to the old lady, even though the phone booth was quite a far away, it would be easy to find. Hey, this is where Keiichi and Nana meet up. If I just followed this road straight down, I'd eventually find it. Sandals flapping as I ran, I couldn't help but laugh at myself. I'll admit if I wasn't quite steadfast about calling Yukie, but there were days when I was tired or busy when I wouldn't call her. Even today, my tired body was covered with injuries and I was dead tired. On top of that, there wasn't much time left. It wouldn't be strange at all if today was one of those days I didn't call her. You never called her! But having twice been foiled trying to call her, had I become hot-headed about it? Was I like a dog who had been told to stay with a piece of food dangling in my face? What am I doing? Even so, I somehow couldn't quell the uneasy feeling sitting in the pit of my stomach. It was like that with the hospital phone, and the same with the one at the tobacco shop. Both cords were definitely not severed from being frayed for long years of use. The clean cuts indicated that someone had taken something sharp and deliberately cut them. But who? And for what reason? The more I thought about it, the uneasier I felt, so I tried to push the thought aside. How much had I run so far? The scenery around me was no longer that of a shopping district, with residential buildings scattered about the lonely road. The surroundings had already grown dark. I was blatantly out too far for a quick phone call, and it was quite obvious I was far removed from the hospital. I recalled the clock I saw at the tobacco shop. It might almost be time. I had run for quite a bit, so my breathing had grown quite ragged. If I had just wanted to hear Yukie's voice, I should have just thrown away my reservations and borrowed the phone in the office. I regretted it a little. Well then, was it about time to give up? Just when I thought that, I saw the light in front of me. I had finally found it. It was a phone booth. He really should have just used the phone in the office. He would have gone through, not at all any trouble. Yeah, what are you doing not calling your wife, right? I mean, he's trying, but, he really should have used the office phone. It seemed that the light in the phone booth had recently been changed, as it shone with a vivid white light. Although in the gloom of Hinamizawa, it was nothing more than a gathering spot for moths. But, in any case, I had finally found it. As my hand touched the door of the phone booth, I realized that I was breathing and sweating heavily. I didn't know what time it was right now, but even if it was just for a moment, I might be able to get in touch with Yukie. Since I had spent all this effort getting here, turning back without even giving it a try was out of the question. Before I picked up the receiver, another wave of uneasiness washed over me. I was worried that this phone cord might be severed as well. How was the cord in this phone booth? Squatting down, I followed the bundle of cables as they ran along the corner into the ceiling. At a glance, nothing was out of the ordinary. I ran my fingers as far as I could along the line to check it out. The only thing they found was a thick layer of dust. Nothing out of the ordinary. I wondered if it was popular in Hinamizawa to cut cords of payphones as some sort of tasteless prank. It might be prudent to talk to Oishi-san about this later. Even if it was nothing more than a prank, it was still vandalism of public property. In any case, this one was fine this time. Pulling out a coin from my pocket with one hand, I pulled up the receiver with the other. But this time, before the receiver even reached my ear, I felt something was off. The receiver was light. It was more than a slightly unpleasant feeling. It felt almost sickening. To verify the source of my displeasure, I peered at the receiver in my hand with a measure of reluctance. What the hell is this? The coiled cord that connected to the receiver to the rest of the phone had been ripped apart, the tip of the cable swaying in the air. It was all I could do to restrain myself as a raw and unpleasant feeling worked its way up to the small of my back. It was the type of dread. At that moment, I heard the crunch of somebody stepping on gravel. The light was reflecting off the glass walls of the booth, leaving me unable to see outside into the darkness. I steeled myself and stepped out of the phone booth. The inside of the booth was lit with a strong light, which might have made it warmer in there. Just stepping outside, I could feel a chill wash over me. And there was the silhouette of a person. A small silhouette. The long hair of that silhouette was blown about by the cool breeze.
Injured people shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
Somewhere in my head, I knew who this girl was. I didn't have any basis for it, but I knew that she was that girl.
Right? Akasaka?
She, Rika Furude, said that almost like it was a warning. Did you do this to the phone cord? Her expression remained unchanged, and my question was left unanswered. In other words, no response. Regardless, I felt that she had affirmed my suspicions. Why would you do something like this? Why? The last word had a tinge of anger behind it. I frantically tried to smooth things out, but she didn't seem very afraid.
There's nothing that can be done.
Huh? I interrupted her words as meaning that I wouldn't be going... Sorry, let me start the sentence over. I interpreted her words as meaning that I wasn't going to be in time for calling hours at the hospital. But thinking about it, that would have been a strange thing to say. Why would she know something like that? I could take that she had said to have any other meaning. She just stood there like a mannequin, not even moving an inch. Almost to the point that if the wind wasn't occasionally rustling through her long hair, there would be the illusion that time had stopped.
I know very well that you think I'm disgusting, Akasaka.
Huh? No. That's not true. My denial came out almost like a bad piece composed for a poetry slam, but her words were right on the mark. I had always felt something ominous and uncanny about her, No? You saw her and were like, yep, this is my ideal child. Ever since her strange threats at the shrine. She had noticed that my expression was contrary to my words, seemingly laughing at the gap between them.
Akasaka? Coward.
I'm not a coward. Being laughed at by the small child didn't sit well with me, so I said that.
Even if you find another phone, it's too late.
That's right. She didn't even have to say it. I was absolutely too late. I might have already missed calling hours even by the time I reached this phone booth. I was too late. I had no option but to give up for the day. Once I decided that, my unhealthy obsession with phones suddenly faded. Even I thought it was strange that I was that obsessed. That strange obsession now gone, I began to laugh at how hopeless I was. I mean, just look at what I was wearing. It wasn't normal. A hospital gown and sandals, my head wrapped in bandages and my body completely soaked in sweat. It was a wonder that the old lady at the tobacco shop wasn't surprised to see me. With wanting to hear Yukie's voice as my motive, I was transpised? I don't know. Around the town with the entire evening. I didn't know whether to call it the follies of youth or simply plain embarrassing. In any case, it was all I could do but to laugh at myself.
No. There's nothing left for Akasaka to do tonight.
You're right. There's nothing. I'll just quietly return to the hospital.
That's fine. Do you know the way?
I hope I do. She waved her little hand as I began to head back the way I came. She began to follow alongside me. Looking at her face, I could tell she wore a mischievous smile, as if she was extremely interested in whether or not I would get lost. Is Rika-chan's house also this way?
It is.
Won't your parents be mad if you're walking around alone at this hour?
Not really. My parents are busy today, so they probably forget about me.
Even then, it's best if you head on home. They'll definitely be angry.
Even if they are, it's much more interesting to talk with Akasaka, so I'm fine.
She said that with a face free from worry as she looked up at me once more and smiled. When she showed me that smile, the eerie feeling surrounding her faded. But even then, she was still as mysterious to me as ever. We arrived at the corner I had turned at earlier, but it was much darker than before, and with the point of view changed on the return trip, I wasn't very confident that this actually was the corner I turned at. There's not a mistake. It had to be this corner. The only mistake was the grammar there. As I began to move my feet again, the girl grabbed onto my clothes.
Isn't Akasaka going back to the hospital?
Of course. At least I intend to. Am I going the wrong way? A short moment of silence. Eventually, still holding on my clothes, she began to walk. It was the beginning of the walk to the hospital this mysterious girl would take me on.
So mysterious. It's too late for Akasaka, no?
Why is my water bottle loud? There we go. The person who was running around cutting the phone cords was you, wasn't it, Rika-chan? You shouldn't do that anymore.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Really? She tried to play dumb, but it was written all over her face.
Mita!
It was obvious she was trying to laugh it off, but that adorable smile of hers just made me want to forgive her. I'm going to be a horrible father, aren't I? Yes. That momentary lapse in tension was erased by her next words.
It's good that they found the grandson safe and sound.
Unable to respond right away, I sunk into silence. I had already learned this from Sato-san's info, didn't I? This girl, no, this entire village knew everything since the moment I set foot in it. I considered playing dumb, but in the end, I chose not to. With everything being known already, there was no point in me feigning ignorance. Somehow.
That's great. Now you can go back to Tokyo.
Thank you.
Are your injuries bad, Akasaka?
Don't know. I haven't heard anything from the doctor yet, so I don't know if they are or not. Huh? Come to think of it, I vaguely remembered being told to lie down and take it easy for at least 24 hours. Did that mean bed rest?
The wounded shouldn't be sneaking out of the hospital.
People shouldn't be cutting phone cords.
Meep. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Then I don't know what you're talking about either. As we played dumb with each other, we both laughed at the same time. If somebody saw us laughing at each other like this, it would probably bring a smile to their lips.
The chances of Akasaka leaving this village alive aren't very high. I don't want Akasaka to die, so I'm glad you're leaving the village alive.
Rika-chan, did you know what I was right from the beginning? She said nothing, but gave a firm nod. Well then, I think you know this, but we're probably somewhat of an enemy to the people in this village, I would think. But you still gave me lots of warnings. That's right. She said it at that time. She wouldn't warn somebody that she was okay with dying. She definitely said something like that. Then I should probably be thanking you.
You probably should. I'm your savior.
Saying that, she puffed up her chest proudly. She said it jokingly, but the meaning behind those words were quite heavy. That was because whether I lived or died was a decision that might have been made in place unbeknownst to me. She said those words in such an adorable smile that it took a few moments of silence for their weight to settle in. I'd been to this place before. The Defense Alliance's office was here, and it was the stone steps leading up to the Furude Shrine. When I passed by before, I was so focused on finding a phone booth I hadn't realized where I was. If I recall correctly, the shrine is Rika-chan's house, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Looking up the shrine grounds, it was brightly lit and energetic voices could be heard. What was going on?
There's a festival today.
A festival?
The best and only festival in Hinamizawa. The Watanagashi Festival.
Watanagashi? Cotton drifting?
Just knowing the name is boring. Do you want to take a look?
She said it bluntly. But seeing that I looked interested, she climbed up a couple steps and motioned for me to come. I was only going to be back and sleep anyways. If I had nothing else to do, it might not be a bad idea to go with her for a little detour. In the hostile territory that was this village, I didn't know what would happen if I ventured down a side road without Oishi. Did I say route? Even though I had thought of the village like that, when I was with this girl, I forgot all about it. In any case, even without anything to back it up, I felt that as long as I was with her, none of the ill will from the village would befall me. That's why, even though I knew my cover was blown, I strangely had no qualms about setting foot into the heart of the Onigafuchi Defense Alliance's territory. Climbing up the grounds of the shrine, I could see there was about 3 pavilions set up, with meeting tables and folding chairs. The old folks from the village, no, the executives of the Defense Alliance, were already quite drunkenly sharing another round of drinks. I could only see it as people from the village council drinking while enjoying the evening air. At the very least, it was certainly quite different than any festival I'd ever seen.
See? It's quite a boring festival, isn't it?
This certainly doesn't look like a festival.
It's a festival that's happened since long ago, but as you can see, it's not like what it used to be.
As if to chide the old folk, she said that while looking at them with an exasperated expression. Rika's just like,
these heckin' drunks. we just have a nice festival here, and now everybody just gets around getting drunk. What the heck?
You really couldn't call it this a festival anymore. It was just a bunch of neighbors getting together to drink under the guise of a festival. I feel sorry for the deity being celebrated here.
Give the sorry excuse for a festival 5 or 6 more years, then everybody in the village will start coming. The ceremony will also be done properly, and it'll be a respectable festival again.
What she said was not so much wistful thinking as it was telling of a future that had already been determined. She wasn't even predicting it. It was almost like she was simply reporting the results. That's how it sounded. Even though it was a baseless speculation, the way she said it wouldn't let me interject. It was the same way she talked when she changed. While I struggled to find the words to reply to her, she wandered over to the other side of the grounds, not minding me at all. Not in a state where I could afford to be left behind, I hurriedly followed after her. Passing through a copse? Man, this chapter has so many words that it's like, I don't think I've ever seen this. A copse of pine trees, a strong and cool breeze ruffled my hair. There, from that one evening, was the splendid observation platform the girl had shown me. As it had grown completely dark, the modest lights littered across the nightscape were providing a different type of scenery.
Looking at it like this, the village seems tranquil.
She said it with an indifferent look on her face. Just the other day, you said that this village definitely wouldn't be submerged by the dam, didn't you? She didn't reply, seemingly relishing in the feeling of the wind blowing through her hair. Didn't that mean that at some point of time, the minister had already complied with the demands? She spun around, her gaze meeting mine, but she said nothing. She spoke nothing that would neither confirm nor deny what I had just said. This case will probably remain shrouded in darkness. Headquarters probably doesn't want the trouble from a scandal with the minister breaking out.
There's no mistake that they threatened to kill the grandchild.
The negotiations with the minister were successful, and the grandson was released.
The one who saved the grandson was you.
I wonder about that. The discovery of that wallet that started this chain of events, that alone was almost too convenient, I'd think. Ever since the moment that wallet was discovered, I felt something was odd. Oishi said it as well, that the Sonozaki family had given the order to release the hostage, meaning that our little manhunt was a farce to begin with. Come to think of it, I was punched, kicked, and had a gun pointed at me. I felt like they put up quite a fight, but that might have been all part of a good performance. Once the negotiations were successful, they couldn't just say, "Here you go," and return the minister's grandson right to his doorstep. They knew that public safety had realized that this was a kidnapping case and were moving in on it. That's why, due to the actions of public safety, the grandson was able to be rescued safely. So the minister wouldn't give in to any unreasonable demands. That type of performance was necessary.
I don't know about those difficult things.
Likewise. Even for me, I couldn't make much sense of it. But there's one thing I can be certain of. It's just as you said. This village won't be submerged. The dam project will soon be over. That wasn't something an officer of the law should be saying, but I naturally let those words slip from my mouth. This village may have stirred up all sorts of trouble, but that was because they were protecting their homes. If someone just decided by themselves that I had to leave the house I was staying in, I would resent them all as well. On top of that, it wasn't a place like mine where I just happened to be renting it, but a place that their families had lived for generations. It might be ignorant to call their desperate resistance an overreaction. I might not really be qualified to criticize politics or bureaucracy, but deliberately building a dam on land that was loved by its residents wasn't something I could get behind.
Still, aren't you glad?
That was me asking that.
Why would that be?
At the very least, with this, peace will return to this village. Even though the minister promised to use his considerable influence to cancel the project, it would probably take more than a few months before it would be completely scrapped. At the very least, it would probably take 1 or 2 years. For the villagers to officially hear that their village wasn't going to be submerged at the bottom of the dam is still a ways away. But it was no mistake that the promise of peace returning to the village was there. It turned out, from beginning to end, it had already been decided. Just as the girl had said, it was decided. There wasn't really a need for me to come here in the first place. There was absolutely no need for me to have come here and aggravate an unpleasant situation. If I had never come here, then the grandson's release might have been done in a more amicable manner.
Peace? In this village?
When I nodded, she laughed as if to admonish me, but her face remained indifferent, expressionless. And then her eyes narrowed slightly as she snickered.
Even though every near year from now on something bloody will occur?
Rika-chan, what are you talking about? As the wind blew her hair about, the girl, as if taking pleasure in that I was the only one who didn't know, continued to snicker as she looked at my face for a while.
You see, in a few years, I'll be killed.
Huh? Backlit by the moon, it was hard to tell if her expression had been cast in shadow as was smiling, amused, or resigned. You are? Why?
It's a very unpleasant thing, though. It's also probably been decided already.
Decided already? Who would decide that sort of thing?
I'd like to know that as well.
Turning back to face me, she showed me a resolute expression for the first time. And after staring into my eyes for a moment, she turned back to gaze at the scenery before she spoke her next words.
There's a lot of people who have no regard for human life. Even if I tell you this, it might not change anything, though. But if you want to erase the specter of death sometimes, like with the reflection of the moon on the water, all you have to do is throw a small stone.
I had no idea what she was trying to say. It's just, I had to listen to every word with my body and soul, or at least that's what I thought.
This day next year, yes, June 1979, on this day, the foreman of the dam construction project will be killed.
What? For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what she was talking about. By the foreman, did she mean that gruff old man I played mahjong with? But be killed? What makes you think? She didn't answer, but she had the same expression on her face as she did when she declared that the dam project would go away. That wasn't the face of somebody making a forecast or a prediction. It was something that was already decided. No, it was as if she was already reporting the results. That sort of expression.
After being killed in a gruesome manner, the body will be torn apart and disposed of.
Murdered and dismembered?
The next year, June of 1980 on this day, Satsuko's parents will be pushed to their deaths.
Satsuko? It was the first time I heard that name, but I didn't have the courage to interrupt the girl's story.
It might be an accident. An unfortunate accident.
The girl smiled faintly, but she wasn't exactly encouraging me to smile along with the lifeless look in her eyes.
And then, the year after that, this day in June 1981, my parents will be killed. And then the year after that, this day in June of 1982, Satsuko's abusive aunt will have her head split open and die. And then the year after that, this day, in the June of 1983, or possibly a few days afterwards, I'll be killed.
If all the deaths are preordained, then the last one would also be all according to plan. But then whose plan would it be? This village is full of murderers and people who have no regard for human life. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths up to 1982 would be the work of somebody in the village. It would be fine to believe that all the deaths that would occur were at the discretion of those who control the village. But that didn't explain what would happen in 1983. There was no way that the last death would fit with anybody's plans. They had no regard for human life. They would use every means at their disposal to meet their goals. But their goals were at odds with that last death. That's why the last death was unrelated to them. But that last death would definitely, most likely, probably, without question, happen. Probably, definitely, I dare say. The last death would be a merciful one. A handkerchief or something being placed over their mouth, making them lose consciousness, never to wake up again. Exactly whose plan was that?
I want to live happily. That's my only wish. Surrounded by my precious friends, spending our days enjoyably. Only that. I don't wish for anything more than that. Rika-chan, I don't want to die.
The girl, stoic as ever, let those last words slip in the end. Eventually, we were discovered by some drunks. The girl, as well as I, were dragged back to the festivities. Everybody was completely drunk, so even when they saw my head completely wrapped in bandages, they wouldn't let me leave. Well, certainly, if I was in good enough condition to slip out of the hospital, it must be not that be serious. The girl was mingling with everybody, being pampered like a kitten. Her expression was adorable, nothing like the one that was from just before, predicting her own death and whispering that she didn't want to die. Having said that, having a silly and lively conversation like this, it was hard to believe that these people were the core of that extremist resistance group. Even if it was a shell of its former self, It was a festival where people in the village gathered, so the 20-some old folk here should have included some of the village executives and other important members. Among those, there was no doubt that there were members that were at the Sonozaki family council in attendance, meaning, if we never met face-to-face before, there were people here who knew my identity. In a small village like this, they knew the faces of all the villagers who lived here. That's why, without even saying anything, it soon became obvious that I was an outsider. But they actually seemed interested by that, asking me all sorts of questions about Tokyo, drinking while mushing on the faint relationship the city had with the villagers, and empathizing with the rather meager environment. The confidential talks with the minister were finished. His grandson was in police custody. Everything was over. I might not have to be put in another perilous situation. To me, they were only my adversaries because of my job. Outside of that, there was no reason I couldn't be friendly with them. The next time I visited this village, would it return to being a tranquil and beautiful place? If that happened, I might be able to take a relaxed walk around the village with her again. My cup was once again filled to the brim with beer. By the time I was able to get away, it was the middle of the night. The girl had at some point disappeared. It seems that her parents had told her to go home and sleep when she let out a large yawn. The old folks, who had absolutely no remorse for making an injured person hang out with them, told me as much as they laughed. I was just there drinking, so I had thought to help a bit to clean up. However, my help was refused on the grounds that I was a guest. On top of that, they had a car prepared to take me back to the hospital. How nice of them! Losing the battle against my sleepiness inside the car, I was sound asleep until we reached the parking lot of the hospital. The front door of the hospital was naturally locked at this hour. I wandered around bewilderedly searching for a back entrance until somebody on night duty found me and let me inside. Where were you at this late at night? Dr. Yuri was worried, you know. Sorry for the trouble. I was held up by the people having a festival at the shrine. Oh, they did say something about everybody in the town council getting together for a drink. My condolences. Are your wounds all right? They're throbbing a bit. It's probably because of the alcohol, I think. Oh, that's right. The detective that was with you wanted to get in touch. Oops, I kept Oishi-san waiting. I glanced at the clock. No matter how you looked at it, it was way too late to call him now. I'll apologize to him tomorrow over the phone. I returned back to my hospital room and slipped into the bed that was still unmade from the time I went outside. Oh, that's no good. I have to turn off the lights. But my weariness had cut the cord powering my body, lulling me into a deep sleep. You know, you were meant to go to the hotel you were staying at, sir. Mother's diary. Probably Oishi's mom. Midsummer, 1985. Wait. That's quite a time jump, actually. Sir, we're preparing to land. Excuse me, but will you please fasten your seatbelt? It seemed I had fallen asleep inside the plane. I was finally awoken from my slumber by the stewardess. I only had carry-on luggage at the top, being a domestic flight, so the time between disembarking and entering the lobby was almost non-existent. Oh right, it did kind of start in the future, didn't it? Arriving at the lobby, I glanced around looking for Oishi, and was met with a familiar gruff voice calling out to me. Akasaka-san! How many years has it been? It's been a while, hasn't it? Oishi-san, it really has been a long time. Oishi clapped his hand down on my shoulder, celebrating our reunion. Akasaka-san, you're looking pretty good. You look like a bona fide frontline investigator now. You're looking quite dapper yourself. Your posture seems a little bit better. Is the ballroom dancing paying off? You should give it a try while you're still young. You'd be a hit with the ladies, a real babe magnet. Oishi had retired and moved to Sapporo, and of all things had started taking ballroom dancing lessons. He had apparently gotten really into it and had decided to spend the rest of his new life devoted to that hobby. He was aiming to get his instructor's qualifications before he hit 80 and live out his old age dandily. I let myself into Oishi's car, and we headed out towards the hot spring inn. I had originally intended to crash at Oishi's place, but Oishi was quite obstinate that his house wasn't suitable for that, so it came to this. At the inn, we had relaxed while soaking in the hot springs, reminiscing about the time we played mahjong together in Hinamizawa. It seemed that to celebrate the reunion, Oishi had looked for people who could play, but unable to find a suitable candidate, we had to give up on putting together a table. As we drank together, we excitedly recounted our exploits during the final manhunt. Did they end up catching those 2 guys? Oh. Man. Looking not too bad. I'll give him that. Nope. In the end, the research team never found them. They were probably hidden by the villagers, then sent overseas or somewhere else far away to lay low for a bit. Oishi-san, if I remember correctly, you managed to grab one of their guns, didn't you? Did you learn anything from that? It was a Chinese-made military pistol. It's probably from the ones the gangs in Kansai managed to smuggle in a ton of. We tried to get a match from the rifling, but it didn't show up in any of our cases. How about on your end? After that, I was removed from the front line, so I don't know too much. In the end, it seems like everything was settled under the veil of secrecy. Oishi laughed wearily as he sipped his chilled drink. What happened after that? Sure was tough, huh? This'll be 7 years now? Yeah. We held the memorial service a few days ago. I've become estranged with my father-in-law lately, so it was rough getting everything ready. Oh. That was... I mixed them. That must have been a lot of work. It was then that the hostess brought in the extra drinks that we had ordered before. While the bottles of beer clanked as she brought them in, we halted our conversation. What Oishi meant when he said it might have been tough. Thinking about that was still hard, but time had healed the wound. It was the day after, when I phoned Oishi to apologize. When I did, Oishi almost immediately handed the phone to one of my colleagues who happened to be there. Not only was I injured in the brawl with the suspects, but I had disappeared to drink late into the night without leaving any sort of contact information, so I thought he'd definitely be mad. However, all he said was that it was something he couldn't talk about over the phone, and that I should come to the station as soon as possible. At the time, I could only think that he must have been really pissed off. But when I arrived at the station, he said this. It seems your wife was involved in an accident. Having no idea what happened, I borrowed the phone to contact the hospital Yukie was staying at. After being given the roundabout several times, I was finally able to talk to someone in charge, and after mincing words for quite some time, they told me Yukie Akasaka was killed in an accident. The world became a blur as I sat there dumbfounded. Yukie's death was unbelievably abrupt, unbelievably sudden. I could have understood if there was some kind of problem during the birth, but Yukie's death wasn't anything like that. On the stairs on the way up to the roof, she just happened to slip and fall. And she just happened to fall on an unfortunate place at the unfortunate angle. That was it. Wanting to blame Yukie's death on somebody, I began to think that it was an act of revenge by the Defense Alliance, that they killed my wife and made it look like an accident. What I learned when I flew back to Tokyo, however, was much more cruel than that. Yukie had a habit of going up to the roof to cool off in the evening. There was an elevator up to the 7th floor, but from there you had to take the stairs to get to the roof. Even late in her pregnancy, when the evening came, she would always head up there. Her father had always said for her not to push herself, but Yukie insisted that until the time she had no choice but to stay in bed, she should be allowed to do as she wished. However, I had never once seen Yukie go up to the roof. I only heard that from her father and the nurses. That was because whenever I visited her, she would spend that time with me instead. I heard the reason why Yukie went up to the roof from a nurse she had become friendly with. She had said that her husband was away on business a lot of the time, and that whenever he called, she was able to cheer him up and give him courage. But when he didn't call, she couldn't do that. Her Her husband might put on a show of bravado, but in reality he grew lonesome pathetically fast. She was probably just the same. Whenever he left for business, not clear when he'd be back, she felt very lonely. Whenever she cheered him on, she was actually cheering herself up as well. That's why, whenever he went far away from an important job, on the evenings he didn't call. At the very least, she felt that standing underneath the same sky, her feelings would reach him. At that moment, I remembered the words that girl had told me, that it was best that I go back to Tokyo right away. Otherwise, there would be something I'd regret horribly. Yes, that's it. Because I was away on business that day, Yukie had headed up to the roof. Had I known that this would have been the result, had I done as the girl had said and dropped everything to head back to Tokyo, I might have been with Yukie on the day she died. If I was with her, she wouldn't have gone up to the roof. The day my wife died was on the evening of the third day of my trip. Yes, it was right before the time I had the sudden urge to hear Yukie's voice. I ran around the village trying to find a phone. The girl had gone around and cut all the phone cords. If she hadn't, I had made that call. I would have undoubtedly learned of Yukie's death at that time and collapsed in tears. Of course, even though the cords were cut, it had only put me off learning of Yukie's death by one evening. In the end, I had learned of it the next morning. However, when I managed to put my emotions in order, I realized that it was the girl's small token of consideration. That's the first I've heard about that. Yeah, it's the first I've talked about it. Don't laugh at my pain, Oishi. Could have been a coincidence. She doesn't have any special powers or anything. Totally not. Aren't you the one who told me, Oishi-san? That she might be the reincarnation of the god named Oyashiro-sama? Well, yeah. The old folks in the village believed that Xephoria had divine powers. Divine powers? Oishi had originally said it as some kind of joke, but realizing that I was serious, he slumped his shoulders. I don't know if it's the truth or not. They said she did things like prophesize the future or talk about things she should have no way of knowing. That she was clairvoyant and that it was a divine revelation. Well, all sorts of things. Of course, they couldn't give specific examples, though. She prophesied Yukie's accident. Oh, she tried to laugh it off, but out of respect to my deceased wife, he kept it restrained. Does that mean an active and capable investigator from the Metropolitan Police Department believes in divine powers and curses? Having him say that so bluntly, I couldn't respond. Of course I had no intention of believing such odd things, but he could only say that because he didn't know what I did. Since I met that other girl, who both was and wasn't Xephoria, I couldn't deny the existence of any otherworldly entity. Of course I can't deny that it might not have been presidents, but rather a warning. Not presidents, but a warning. So if what that girl had said was a warning about Yukie's accident, then things became much easier to understand. Basically, the line of thinking became that it was a threat. Because I didn't go back to Tokyo, my wife was killed in a way that made it look like an accident. Not satisfied with the investigation into your wife's accident? Of course, I suspected foul play. I pored over the results and even carried out my own personal investigation. There wasn't any witnesses to Yukie's fall. There was the possibility that somebody had hidden, waiting to push Yukie down the stairs. However, the cleaning ladies frequented the roof to hang laundry, and the security cameras on each floor hadn't recorded anything out of the ordinary. There wasn't anything set up on the stairs, and I was unable to find anything suspicious. Precedence? Prescience? I think it... I don't know. This chapter has been giving me a lot of words. It's just like, I have never seen this. Also, hello, Morinda. How you doing? In the end, even after my personal investigation, I can't think that anything else happened other than this simple accident. Well, of course, there were the guys that took the minister's grandson hostage. It wouldn't be impossible for them to push a lone pregnant woman down the stairs without leaving any evidence. Oshi's expression had completely sobered up. They murdered your wife? When Yukie died, I thought that as well. More precisely, I wanted to blame somebody, so I created the most viable scapegoat. But without any clear evidence, that violent notion faded along with the wounds in my heart. Did that girl know beforehand about my wife's death and was threatening me? Or did she prophesize that death and was offering me a road to salvation? If I had to choose between the two, I would tend towards the latter. Oishi smiled slightly in disbelief as he poured more beer from his bottle. Then if I may, if what you say is true, then Rika Frude is a prophet who knew the future. If so, why didn't she predict that disaster? If she knew that the gas eruption was going to happen, why did she remain silent? Even a few hours beforehand would have been enough. If the village knew, then most of the people would have escaped without dying. The Great Hinamizawa Disaster in Memoriam List. It was near the end of June 1983. Volcanic gases from the Onigafuchi swamp erupted and hit the village in the middle of the night. It was an unprecedented disaster where the whole populace was wiped out. It caused a wave of panic about volcanic gas across the country, causing people to overreact over any reports of odd smells. I hadn't heard of the blockade on Hinamizawa area being lifted, so it should still be cornered off. That's... It was my turn to be lost for a response. Probably because by the time that happened, she was already dead. Can't really prophesize things that happen when you're not around. Well, if Rika Frude, the reincarnation of Oyashido-sama, was killed, then the village might have incurred the god's wrath, making him call forth the miasma from the swamp to kill everyone. That explanation was what the survivors are whispering about. Sorry, Oishi-san. Did you just say she was killed? Huh? Ah, yeah. Well, I don't think it would be a problem if I told you. When I saw the news about the gas disaster, I remembered that girl. Then I found her name in the list of victims. That's why, at the time, I thought her own death had predicted was due to the gas. It was after that I learned from the tabloids of a series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa during the 5 years leading up to the disaster that became known as the Curse of Oyashido-sama. And that string of mysterious deaths lined up exactly with what that girl had predicted, so I had always thought to ask Oishi about it, as he had been involved in the investigation. That's right. That was the reason for our reunion. But right now, Oishi had said, Rika Furude didn't die in the disaster, but was killed? Can I ask you about the last year of the curse? I may be retired, but I still have to keep things confidential, you know? Excuse me, madam. Do you have anything cold that's brewed locally? High grade if there is. I'll leave the selection to you. Oh my, I didn't mean it that way. Oishi laughed loudly, not wholly unsatisfied, and stopped the hostess to tell her that the cheap booze was fine. I know as much as was written in those magazines, but I don't know anything about the curse that happened the year of the disaster, because the entire area around Hinamizawa was sealed off, you see. There wasn't much of an investigation that could be done in the last year of the curse. Even if several years of the quarantine is lifted, the villagers were mostly dead, and what few survivors there are mostly went to stay with their relatives, their whereabouts mostly unknown. It's a complete dead end. Oishi seemed to postulate to himself as he stared at the ceiling, as if trying to work out a memory from the rusty cogs in his head. And then he said in a completely sober voice, The magazines made it seem like the curse of the 5th year was the disaster, but the actual curse really happened on the day of the Watanagashi festival. A photographer by the name of Jiro Tometake. He was the victim. Oishi gestured about how the victim tore out his own throat with his fingernails as he talked. And the burnt corpse of the woman Tometake was in a relationship with was found in the mountains in Gifu. The Gifu prefectural police weren't very cooperative, so I don't know much about it, though. There were 2 victims in one night? Actually, you see, it wasn't just those 2. You see, the next day, Kumigai-kun, one of my subordinates, disappeared along with his car in the middle of his investigation. Kumagai was the older detective that was going to be partnered with Oishi after we first met. He was going around the village to question people about the incident with Tometake. He might have gotten caught up in something. If he was with me, he might have been safe. Even now it still stings. That day, for some reason, I had a real number on my stomach. I'm assuming it did a real number on my stomach. I had to pass on going around outside. He got too close to the truth and was made to disappear? That's what I think. Guma-chan was young and had a promising future ahead of him, but he still didn't have enough experience on the scene. He wasn't used to dealing with any complications. Oishi lamented the fact that he wasn't with a subordinate that day. And then the next day, you see, you know him as well, Akasaka-san. You know Dr. Erie. You remember him? That young doctor from the hospital? I vaguely remember. For whatever reason, he committed suicide with sleeping pills. No suicide note or anything. The autopsy confirmed that it was the sleeping pills. Nothing was in doubt except for the motive. It isn't that hard to make it look like somebody died from taking sleeping pills, is it? Any possibility is that it was murder? He was single, no prior marriages. It didn't seem like he was going out with anybody in particular. He was the coach of the local junior baseball team and was on good terms with the villagers. He was liked by everybody. I couldn't find anybody who would want to do him harm. Well, any chances to investigate were ruined by the disaster, though. There's no way to find out anything about him now. Then, what about Rika Furude's death? It was the day of. Around noon, some of the old folks who were visiting the shrine discovered the corpse of Rika Furude. Murder? Before we continue, you should probably stop eating that squid somen. That bad? Oishi nodded firmly. The corpse was found on the shrine grounds next to the donation box, although she was probably killed somewhere else. That's because while she was completely naked, there wasn't any dirt on the soles of her feet. Any signs that it was some sort of sexual assault? According to the autopsy, there wasn't any indication of that. What we know is that she was rendered unconscious by some sort of drug, carried to that place, and had her abdomen sliced whole wide open. Her organs were deliberately removed and scattered about. Unconscious? Then she wasn't cut up after her death? That's horrible. That girl's prediction was right on the mark. I'm pretty sure she was more detailed about the other deaths that led up to her own. For example, I think she said that the housewife that was beaten to death on the 4th year had her head split open. Then in that case, did she know that her own death would be so terrible? I'm wondering why Akasaka isn't talking about how Rika had predicted things yet, but I guess it's been years. Well, I think they did. Because they were saying, well, at least I thought. I don't know, maybe he did in a roundabout way. Wouldn't have that big of an impact on Oishi. Yeah. Also, I so dislike Akasaka. Right? like he really... He made so many mistakes. Like, he could have avoided so much. He couldn't have avoided this, because this was kind of set in stone. But, like... He's kind of just there, like, on the side. Like, they probably just made him just to have this, like, before everything went down perspective, because it would be kind of weird to have it be one of the villagers, I guess. But it's still weird. In terms of the story, he's just a giant carbuncle, entirely unneeded. Correct. He's just like, they really just made him up just to do the past stuff. That's it. Maybe, but I like how the anime did it with it in a, yeah. There must have been some moments where she wanted to doubt the validity of her own predictions, but as people died exactly as prophesized, as the years passed, that prophecy would only come closer to fruition. And then, facing the final year, unable to struggle against her own destiny, her all-too young life was snuffed out, and in such a cruel way. Knowing that her days were numbered and unable to fight the tide of events heralding her end, my heart ached at her helplessness. About the way she died, it seemed like it wasn't just somebody's sick tastes. What I'm saying is, I've told you before about how Tahina Mizawa used to be home to demons, didn't I? Yeah, I think I remember. The festival in Hinamizawa village, Watanagashi, the cotton drift, seems to stem from the drifting of entrails. Seems that it came from the man-eating demons ripping apart the victims and throwing their organs into the river. In other words, in Hinamizawa, pulling out entrails had some sort of religious meaning? Well, this is according to the old tales in Hinamizawa, you see, to act as the arbitrators so that the humans and man-eating demons could live together peacefully. A god known as Oyashiro-sama descended from the heavens. If I recall, Rika Furude was said to be the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, wasn't she? Yeah, so cutting open Rika Furude, who was a living god, would be to the village nothing less than an absolute sacrilege. Absolute sacrilege? In other words, you mean sacrilege towards Oyashiro-sama? The rest you should know, Akasaka-san. The wrath of Oyashiro-sama would occur that same night. The Great Hinamizawa disaster. The official explanation was that some swamp upstream erupted with toxic volcanic gas which enveloped the village. The swamp where it erupted was called Onegafuchi Swamp. It was the origin of Hinamizawa's old name, Onegafuchi Village. According to the village lore, the depths of the swamp apparently lead to hell, where the man-eating demons came from. That almost seems too perfect. Oh, no. That's just the tip of the iceberg. There was another bit of folklore in the village. If Oyashiro-sama became angry, the cauldron of hell would open up and miasma would flow out. Or so they say. To the villagers, hell was at the bottom of the swamp. So basically, the miasma poured out and smothering the village? Yeah, basically, due to the sacrilegious way the Rika Furude, the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was killed, the village incurred the wrath of Oyashiro-sama in the form of that disaster. That seems to be their explanation. So, what you're saying is that the disaster wasn't a natural one? Yes. Well, everything does seem to fit together a little too well. If Oyashiro-sama's curse doesn't really exist, and everything really was just a matter of coincidence, I would doubt it. A wry smile formed on Oishi's face as he listened to my absurd take on things. He wore an expression as though, even if it were absurd, there was a time he had thought it was the same thing as well. In regards to the religious beliefs of the villagers, suppose that there was some more fanatical following amongst them, and that the group called a situation that would incur Oyashiro-sama's wrath, and enacted the disaster to make it seem like the truth. Of course I won't laugh. I've wandered down that line of reasoning more than once myself. However, even though Hinamizawa is a small village, it still has a population of over 1,000 people. To murder that many people in a single night doesn't seem realistic, no matter how much you think about it. The gas eruption was believed to have happened around 2 a.m., several hours before dawn. In that short amount of time, going around and killing all the villagers in the way that made it look like poison gas doesn't seem feasible at all. The swamp the gas erupted from still had some religious significance, didn't it? If that's the case, then maybe there is something set up in the swamp, something that could be activated whether a divine verdict was rendered. According to the... Wait, I think it was us saying that. I don't know. According to the JSDF press release, the swamp was declared the source of the eruption. This was after everything was thoroughly looked over by their investigative team. If anything like that was set up, I think they would have found it. It wouldn't necessarily have to be in the swamp itself. Come on, haven't you heard about it? The story about how a faraway spring dried up and the village spring dried up as well. What do you mean by that? Many waterways are connected by underground aquifers. Swamps and springs are the only parts that manage to pop above the surface. So what you're saying is that Onegafuchi Swamp is connected to another swamp or spring, and there's something in the villagers rigged up there long ago, something that changes the pressure of Onegafuchi Swamp, causing it to erupt with poison gas? Is that what you're getting at? Oishi laughed heartily, commending the fact that the youngins have a nice, flexible way of thinking. That was the former detective in him. Even though it was a hypothesis that he didn't come up with, he still had the presence of mind to not dismiss it right away. That's an interesting theory. If that proves to be true, then it would be, unprecedentedly, the largest mass murder in history in Japan. Once the quarantine on Hinamizawa Village is lifted, I think it should definitely be investigated. Oishi-san, do you still have any connections with the prefectural police? Somewhat. I'm an honorary advisor for the judo classes, so even now I pop by during summer training camps and such. I don't know when the quarantine on Hinamizawa Village will be lifted, but please, let me help investigate. Got it. Oishi-san, how do you feel about the string of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa they call the Curse of Yashiro-sama? At the time, the villagers were putting a lot of pressure on the station. The official stance on things was the cases were unrelated. That each case was separate, each with its own resolution. That couldn't be, even though it was blatantly obvious that the cases were connected based on the village's religious beliefs. Akasaka-san, we can only say that now because of the rather grandiose way things ended after 5 years. At the time, those coincidental incidents just happened to coincidentally occur on the day of Watanagashi. Just a would it be nice if nothing happened this year kind of feel to it. Coincidence? The girl predicted everything from the beginning. Girl? Rika Furude. That child warned me about all the incidents that would happen afterwards. Akasaka-san? Is that true? Yes. The girl said as much. That the next year the dam foreman would be killed and his corpse dismembered. Not only that, she warned me of all the incidents that would transpire in the following years. Akasaka-san, when she told you all of that, what year was it? When I met the girl, I was investigating the kidnapping incident, so June of 1978. The year before the dismemberment murder. Wrinkles formed between Oishi's eyebrows as he closed his eyes and began to digest what I had just told him. Akasaka-san, if you're right about Rika Furude knowing the future through some divine medium, this is getting ridiculous. Yep. If you're just trying to shock me, I'm going to be really angry, you know. I'm speaking the truth. Then the script behind the chain of mysterious deaths was written a year before it even started. And just as predicted, Rika Furude was killed. At first I thought she meant that she would be killed in the disaster. However, now that I know her death wasn't due to that, but rather an atrocious one at the hands of a murderer, she said she would be killed. At that point in time, she knew more or less how her own death would occur. Then why didn't Rika Furude not try and run away? Even if her death was already spelled out for her, knowing that, she still had a grace period of several years, didn't she? She had plenty of time to try and run away to consult the police. Why didn't she just accept her death with no resistance? Or why did she? I don't know. Even though Rika Furude was doted upon by the older folks in the village, you see, after she lost her parents, she had no living relatives and lived a fairly solitary life other than hanging around with some close friends. It might have been she didn't have any power to fight or anybody to rely on. She must have tried signaling somebody for help in regards to her own death, though. You know very well that the village and the police weren't very amicable with each other, Akasaka-san. At the very least, I never heard anything about Rika Furude seeking protection from anybody. Yeah, definitely not. It's not from anybody named Akasaka-san or anything. Or it could be that she simply resigned herself to being religious sacrifice. It could have been something like that. There's no way that was the case. I spoke decisively. At that time, she said it. She had definitely said she wanted to live happily and that she wanted to spend her time surrounded by her dear friends. She hadn't given up on life. She had hoped to keep on living. At that moment, I became dumbstruck. What's the matter, Akasaka-san? No, it's nothing. I fell into silence. Oishi folded his arms and began murmuring in contemplation again. Eventually, he stood up and headed towards the hallway to find the hostess, yelling that he wanted a pen and paper. When Oishi, noisily even though he was just thinking, left, the room immediately fell into a chilled silence. I stood up. It was then I realized that I was drunk enough to be unsteady on my feet. When I slid open the window, a beautiful yet somehow ethereal moon drifted across the night sky. It was just now that I realized she hadn't accepted her own death. She wanted to keep living, happily and joyously. She had said that quite clearly to me. But I was a fool, yes. I hadn't been asked explicitly, so I hadn't realized it. She had made it clear as day that she didn't want to die. Wasn't that her cry for help? She didn't say as much as that she wanted help, but even giving that, it wasn't as though she wasn't asking for a salvation. Without any family and unable to trust the police, she instead told somebody without any relation to the village, somebody from a faraway place, me, help me. She had gone around and cut the phone cords. If I had made that phone call and learned of Yukie's death, I probably would have fallen into despair. If I was in that state, even if she was looking for help, her cries would have fallen on deaf ears. That's why, knowing everything, she had cut the phone cords. She wanted even a little time to seek help from me. Oishi, just before now, had lamented that one of the younger officers gotten mixed up in the case, having been erased because he wasn't there. I was feeling the same way. If only I was there in June of 1983, I could have protected her. In 1983, it would have been 5 years since the kidnapping took place. While raising my only daughter, Yukie had left me, putting all my youth and passion into my work, honing my wits and courage, wrestling with difficult cases. Nothing like my failings during the kidnapping incident would have occurred. I wouldn't have been slow to react in a one-on-one fight, and by that point I'd jumped into foreign mafia-run gambling parlors where I'd learned to deal with automatic weapons, let alone handguns. I had grown so much in 1983 I couldn't have even compared to how I was in 1978. People are silly and irrational children more so, and insane, tortured children even more so. Still, I think it was really obscure and specific in asking for help. Yeah, true. I feel bad for her, but yeah. I mean, you know, she was predicting stuff, so it's not... It's kind of hard to be like, listen, bro, I 100% can tell the future except for my exact moment of death. I am going to die. Please help me out of here. You'd probably look at this child and be like, I don't know if I can help you. That's why, if I was by her side, I should have been able to save her life. No matter what conspiracy or foul plots drew near, I definitely would have protected her. She, even though sounding resigned, should have still been able to ask for help. No, it's easy to say that, or tell others, or tell Akasaka specifically how Yukie was about to die and why he should go home, right? Just being like, hey, if you don't leave right now, your wife's gonna die. Like, he would probably take that as a threat. Just like, wait, what are you doing with my wife? Knowing Akasaka. Did I read this part already? I don't know. I'll read the last 2 sentences just in case. She, even though sounding resigned, should have still been able to ask me for help. I just didn't realize it. I couldn't realize it. Just as I wouldn't have realized it if I was told of Yukie's accident. I wasn't able to realize it. I wanted to cry. If I had taken her words to heart, I would have prevented Yukie's accident. And I would have been able to protect the girl to whom I owed debt from even at a predetermined death. She must have been expecting that from me. I learned about the disaster while watching television in my house. Until I learned about that, I had forgotten about Hinamizawa. In order to recover from the shock of Yukie's death, I had tried to remove everything about the place from my memory. What an ungrateful fool I was. Even though in exchange for saving her, the girl had told me of a way to save Yukie, I was unable to accept her gratitude, and now here we were. It's the difference between saying, you'll have bad luck tomorrow and you should avoid blue tomorrow, or tomorrow at 9:28 a.m. a blue truck is going to come by and hit you, sending you to the hospital with a fractured wrist and 2 broken legs. That's true, there is a difference in that. Because, like, with that last one, it's like, that is way too specific. I would not go outside. I would try to avoid outside as much as possible if someone told me specifically that. So yeah, just being like, hey, You should probably leave her village, you know, something bad might happen if you don't. She hadn't died in her sleep due to an unnatural disaster. She was split open while still alive, killed while suffering the disgrace of having her organs torn out. She must have known beforehand that on that day, on that year, she would be killed in such a terrifying way. But even knowing what end awaited her, she was all too weak. A lone girl without anybody to rely on and able to seek help had to swallow her own predetermined death and left this mortal coil. Enrica could tell the villagers stuff or something. Yeah. It do be hard, though. She said she wanted to live. She said she just wanted to live happily. That's all she wanted. She didn't ask for anything extravagant. For any person that was ever born, it was the very barest of desires. She never said a peep about wanting money or that she wished she was in somebody else's situation. She had said it. That if all deaths were preordained, that hers was probably also all according to plan. She might have been a lone, frail girl, but I didn't think she would have accepted it all without at least putting up a fight. There must have been, in some small way, some form of resistance that she mustered, and with what she could muster, seeking my help was part of that. And I screwed it up! God damn it! I howled. I stomped the floor. Why did I become a police officer in the first place? How could I call myself an officer that I couldn't save a single girl from the misfortune that was awaiting her? Was it because there was so much going on at the time I couldn't process the fact that she was asking for help? Yeah, that's right, I was still green. If I was in that situation now, I would have definitely been able to help her. She didn't ask for anything extravagant, she only wanted me to blind trust her with no real proof that she could foresee the future. It's not too much to ask, is it? Right? But it was all already over. Even if I wanted to settle the regrets she had left behind, Hinamizawa, as a dangerous area, was still quarantined. Most of the people involved were already dead, and the few that did remain spread around the country, unable to be traced. The stage of that tragedy is still off limits as well. The police investigation was on hold, and the case slowly being buried in the sands of time, just like how I wouldn't have known unless Oishi had asked me about it. Akasaka-san, are you okay? At some point, Oishi had returned with a notebook in hand. Until I saw the expression on Oishi's face, I didn't realize I was in tears. I never realized she wanted help. Akasaka-san, calm down. But it's all too late now. She was killed in such an atrocious manner. She was counting on me, but I couldn't save her. I might also be at fault for not building up an amicable relationship with the village. If Rika Furude had told me about it, I might have been able to extend a helping hand. I wasn't able to build up enough trust for that. That's something I regret. When Oishi said the word trust, it weighed on me even more. Just Akasaka being like, Oishi, I fucked up. Or I fucked up. And it's like, yep, that you did. You royally fucked up. Yes, she had given me her trust. She trusted me, meaning that she thought that I would have been able to ward off the fate of her unforeseen death. She believed that. I cried. I fell to my hands and knees as I began to bawl. Eventually, Oishi spoke quietly. Akasaka-san, does it upset you? It does! Then, there's only one way worth mentioning for Rika Furude to have her revenge. Is there really? Is there a way to do that? Oishi showed me the pen and notebook. In order to properly mourn the death of Rika Furude, we have to at least find out the truth. The truth? Yes, and not just Rika Furude. Lots of people died. Their lament must be immeasurable. But their deaths were left unsettled because of the disaster, and now we can't even investigate them as their memory fades into oblivion. Many people died. The old man was killed, Kuma-chan was erased, everybody was a victim. The police can't even investigate it. Who's going to take care of their parting regrets? Only we can. Akasaka-san. We find the truth. Yeah, we'll find it. I've been around every one of the strings of mysterious deaths and know all the inner workings of the village. You were told an important truth the year before they happened to Rika Furude. We can do it. But They're already dead. Oh, that's right. Rika Frude died. You were too inexperienced, so you couldn't save her. Wah! Oishi grabbed me, who was a wreck, and lifted me firmly by the lapels. That's why! To atone for that, we reveal the truth. If what you say is true, then all the incidents were part of some greater design. If that's the case, then how we investigate needs to change completely. I intend to spend tonight summarizing all the information you and I have, and then get in contact with one of my former subordinates first thing in the morning. We're not going to let the case go cold. We're definitely going to crack it wide open. Crack it open. Crack it open! We will. Several years have passed, but it's not beyond the statute of limitations. Even if the case has been postponed, it's not closed. It's still going. We're going to keep it going. Oishi and I vowed to bring the truth of the case to light and stood up. Everything ended in 1985. I, at least wanting to apologize, had searched for her grave. After the state autopsy, her remains were entrusted with one of the shrine's holders. In the future, when the quarantine on Hinamizawa area was lifted, they would be returned to her family grave. However, unsure who exactly took the remains of Rika Furude, until today I couldn't even apologize to her. In the future, when the quarantine on Hinamizawa is lifted, all I could do was wait until whoever that person is returned to the grave. What I could do right now was not apologize to her. Instead, until I was able to meet her again, I would reveal the truth and dispel her regrets. Even now, sporadic eruptions of the gas in Hinamizawa area meant that the prospect of the quarantine being lifted wasn't happening anytime soon. Most likely, it seemed that she had no intention of meeting me again until I found the truth. That's why the quarantine wasn't lifted, or so I thought, or wouldn't be lifted, until the day I grasped the truth. It was the following year. Oishi and I co-authored a book on the string of mysterious deaths leading up to the great Hinamizawa disaster. I decided on the title, Higurashi, When They Cry. That was because for those days I was in Hinamizawa, the sound that I remembered the most was the cry of the Higurashi. I could only wish that, based on this book, those people involved in that incident could refresh those memories and bring to light a new truth. And more importantly, that nothing like this ever happens again. I wrote this in the afterword. Why did this tragedy happen? We can't reach the truths by ourselves. If you're reading this, please discover the truth. That is our only wish. Kuraudo Oishi, Mamuro Akasaka. This year, the quarantine on Hinamizawa still hasn't been lifted. And I think that was it for Himatsubushi. Yeah. Now we got all the tips to go through and the little extra stuff. The little all-cast session. Which those are always fun. Okay, how many tips did we unlock? I know a lot of the chapters were just like, here's 5 tips. Oh, only 2 pages worth. Not too many. The last chapter had way more. Phone call with Yukie. Oh, there was a phone call with Yukie. It was just hidden. Oh, really? It's tough when it's such a sudden assignment. Please be careful. Where are you headed? You're already there? Whenever I headed out on assignment, she would ask where. Welcome back, Bailey. We'd finished the chapter, and so now we're going through the tips. We found out that he actually did call his wife. It was just side story. Whenever I headed out on assignment, she would ask where. Not just Yukie, but anybody would have asked the same question. If it was a cold place, she would urge me to pack a thin jacket. If it was far, she'd warn me to be careful on the drive over. It was just normal, everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. Been stuck on elementary math because I had to unlock the key to ancient knowledge. Oh! That sounds wild. Just the ancient knowledge in your mind. I know how that can be sometimes. I remember like back in school, I was wild at math, and now it's just like, I'm just gonna pull out a calculator. I'm lazy. Fractions still suck as an adult. Yeah, I think I've completely forgotten how to do fractions. It was just normal, everyday concern that led to asking such an obvious thing. It felt sad that I couldn't answer such a run-of-the-mill question. Sorry, it's something that you can't talk about, isn't it?
Please be careful.
Sorry, Yukie. At some point, you started apologizing right away, even though when you first started your job, you were all gung-ho about it. Yukie laughed as though she had realized something. At times like this, Yukie had the magical power to see right through me. It's already been quite a while since I was admitted to the hospital.
Are you finally getting lonely?
Oh, don't tease me. I'm too old to get lonely.
Oh, really? You actually like to be doted on, don't you? Don't you start getting a little faint of heart when I'm not around?
Oh, jeez. I can see the little devil horn sprouting from your head right now. You've always been like this.
You can't hide it. You can't hide it. If I don't play with you, you'll get all lonely. I can hear your tail wagging over the phone.
Wow. Just calling him a little puppy. The sight of Yukie wasn't something you could guess existed from seeing her usual modest behavior. It was something that she didn't show to anyone else but me. Normally I'd poke her to hide my embarrassment and hide an end to the conversation. But I couldn't do that over the phone. Or bring an end. Why did I say hide an end? Of course, Yukie was clever. She was teasing me because of that.
I wonder when I figured out that giving you grief was this much fun.
Give me a break. In any case, it's good to hear you so lively.
I know, right? Did I cheer you up?
I had called Yukie to keep her from feeling lonely when she was by herself in the hospital room. Of course, it was nothing more than a pretense that I, being lazy, had come up with. It seemed that Yukie had long since seen through that fact. Yeah.
Please phone again. When I'm not feeling up for it, I'll get my father to talk with you. Although, if you're talking with my father, I get the feeling that you'd be standing at attention on the other side of the line.
For a while longer, Yukie kept teasing me without letting me end the call. And look at what you messed up, Akasawa. Chairman, members of the party, congratulations are due, as we are celebrating 25 years since our founding. These past 25 years have seen much growth in Prefecture. The once quiet scenery of nothing but fields now has seen the opening of a new stop for the bullet train, and with the development of the highway, we've seen the rebirth of a modern city bustling with youthful energy. We've reaped the benefits of new businesses and industry, and with the special reverence of the residents of Prefecture have for time-honored traditions and culture, business, and industry. With these ideals in harmony, they have accomplished in growing their city into one of Japan's foremost metropolises. Of course, the Department of Prefecture couldn't have happened without the growth of the party. We are resolved to see every one of our campaign promises to fruition. Reaches our targets definitively and exponentially, like arrows fired from a bow. With these arrows as the fundamental basis of the party, our members have sought to pierce the obstructions preventing the happiness of residents of Prefecture. But I do believe that everybody here is unlike an ordinary arrow. While being unflattering and straightforward, we have not neglected in seeking solutions that conform to the current day and age, while also keeping an eye on the future. An arrow, once loosened, can only fly to its destination. Everyone here, however, is no simple arrow, even once loosened from the bow, without neglecting our duties. While employing new methods and implementing more effective and flexible ideas, thus being able to change trajectories mid-flight, we are magical arrows. The modern age marches ever forward. Sometimes it marches faster than the time taken from planning to execution. The following part was not in the script. It is thought to have been ad-libbed by the minister. For example, there have recently been numerous problems with the Hinamizawa power plant project. Rather than forcing through the project solely because it was decided upon by the government, it is necessary to reflect on and adjust to the ever-changing needs of the residents, the region, and the next generation. The protests by the local residents that surrounded the Hinamizawa Dam, those are also the will of the people of Prefecture. If you feel that there is no need to listen because the project has already been finalized, then you do nothing more than shed a poor light on Japan's post-war democracy. The following as per the script. For the lasting happiness of the citizens of Japan and residents of prefecture, please consider these policies thoroughly. I believe, however, we have all gained something through the flexibility and foresight of the party. I've taken up much of your time. However, allow me to say the following to celebrate the 25th anniversary of our founding. Chairman, members of the party in the attendance, thank you very much for today. From the opening remarks of the party, prefectural forum, and 25th anniversary celebration. That was a whole mouthful. Gears and fire and the taste of honey. What? That is an interesting title for one of these. The world is filled with people, blessed with relationships. Of course, that doesn't mean that everyone is connected to each other. It's obvious that on the other side of the planet, there are people laughing and crying who can't possibly have an effect on you. However, in the extremely limited community of the neighborhood, one sort of connection is just a matter of fact. It's quite possible that a single remarkable event could have massive consequences inside a small community. If you were to increase that in scale, a perfect stranger on the other side of the globe might become enough of a legend to have an effect on our lives. Well, it's not always that way. Like I said at the beginning, the links between people basically aren't that relevant in the grand scheme of things. Whether some household nearby is having steak or croquets? I think so. It doesn't matter to me. But I put on my shoes, and it doesn't matter, or when I put on my shoes, it doesn't matter to anybody whether I put the right one on first or the left. This much the average person can understand. But actually, in reality, this is the truth. The bonds between people are quite well defined. It's not just a matter of distance, of being far or near. For example, let's say person A's actions have some effect on me. Even then, person B's actions could have absolutely no consequence on my life. The reverse also holds true. Just because my actions affect person A doesn't always mean that they affect person B as well. Let's put it bluntly. If the bonds between people are like gears in a machine, the gear that represents me meshes with some people, but is isolated from others. There are some who would try arguing against this. Those people would bring up the example of gears in a clock. Each gear, indeed, only directly meshes with one or two others. However, if you rotate one gear, the one next to it is moved, which connects to the next one, and then the next. In the end, all gears are moving. There is a logic behind this, more than enough to convince the average person. Why is the argument convincing? The answer is simple. The relationships between people are ambiguous and can only be described conceptually. How the gears are connected and how their movements are chained together can't be used as a fundamental explanation, as it throws a wet blanket on that argument. For the people who like that explanation, I'll use the example of a clock again to refute it. First of all, to say that this world is a singular clock would be wrong. That is, there isn't only one clock. There exist many clocks in this world, each counting their own time. If you think about it, the idea that this world is just one big clock is the height of arrogance. Even if you use the analogy of gears to explain human relationships, then you should be able to explain it using an analogy of multiple clocks unrelated to a single gear. Neighbors A and B. A is a gear of the same clock as me, so it's best to remain civil. B is a gear in a different clock, so he doesn't really matter to me at all. It's the kind of clear distinction I'm talking about. You want to say I'm being fallacious? I don't think that was the word, but I'm not sure. Fallacious? No. Now let's change the analogy to something more familiar so you can understand. You've probably heard the phrase, a fire on the opposite shore sometime in your life. No? Oh. Maybe once. For example, if your neighbor's house is on fire, you'd probably try to help put it out, wouldn't you? Welcome back, nobody. Wouldn't you? It'd be awful if the fire spread and burned down your own house after Hull. But what if the fire was in a town on the opposite side of a river? Would you still go out of your way to help? You wouldn't, would you? Even though it would be the wrong thing to do, there's no way a fire could spread to your own house. Even if it turned into a huge conflagration? There's no relation between the house that would spread fire to yours and those that won't. With this basic example, you should be able to see the difference between gears that are and aren't related to your own. Having said that, there's still a lot to think about, even without a river to divide it. After all, it's not a spatial problem like being on the opposite side of a river, is it? I feel like there's more room for more explanation, but not too bad. The chick in the trunk. Okay. I would not because I can't swim. I would not because I would be scared. I would maybe call the police station though. I would at least do that. The car had stopped, but he didn't know any more than that. For not only was he blindfolded, but locked in the trunk of a car. How could people become this powerless just by being robbed of their sight? He absolutely wouldn't have known this without experiencing it firsthand. He soon realized that it was pointless to try and undo his bonds, with the confines of the trunk quickly making him lightheaded. He had no choice but to let this mild torture dull his senses. That's why, when the car stopped and the unpleasant vibrations ceased as the engine was killed, he couldn't help but delude himself that he was being set free, even though nothing had been resolved in reality. Of course, he was soon removed from that delusion. He strained his ears when he heard one of the men who abducted him and the older men who was hearing for the first time strike up a conversation. "Nice to meet you. The chick is in the trunk." He struggled. What? Are we the minister's son or are we some chick? Why are they calling us a chick? We are a child. I feel like it's probably a mistranslation because even the title was titled chick. Unless they're like referring to us as like a chicken. Like a little bok chick. Very strange. He struggled so much that he's probably exhausted right now, but there's not a mark on him, just as ordered. "You're an out chicken." "Oh no!" Must have been a handful. The trunk opened, letting in a blast of fresh, cool air, even though up until now he had been thinking about getting out of the stuffy trunk. When it was actually opened, he suddenly became uneasy. Even so that he wished that the lid of the trunk would once again close, separating him from them. 10 more math questions. Oh no, good luck to you, Bailey. We are small chicken, I guess. I guess we are small chicken. Suddenly, someone stroked his head. "Don't touch me." Of course, since he was blindfolded, he couldn't tell if the hand was petting him or simply evaluating how easy it would be to remove his scalp. This kid did not consent to head pats. Please do not touch. Unable to tell the difference, he could only freeze as he imagined the worst-case scenario. "Poor little bugger. He's shaking. Just stay calm for a bit." The older man said that kindly as he gently stroked the boy's head. "This must be really rough for you. But you see, your gramps is a real nice man. He'll help you soon enough." Having heard nothing but the average standard dialect his whole life, the older man's distinct intonation left a deep impression on the boy. But he had no idea what he was saying. For your gramps to register as meaning your grandfather took a while to process. Eventually, the hand that was stroking his head loosened the blindfold. Can't keep his eyes covered. If he splits his face open, it'd be bad. And with that, might as well take out the gag. You can't breathe like that. It'd be trouble if he yells. Leave him to us. Jeez, you guys don't know how to treat somebody. The main family said no rough stuff. You better remember that well. Yeah, we won't do anything stupid. As long as the kid cooperates, that is. The man's head prodding roughly and repeatedly at the boy's head. A rugged hand, unlike the affectionate one that had been stroking his head before. Just stay cooperative. If you struggle, there's no guarantee what will happen. So what happens? I don't know. I guess this is just the kid being kidnapped. I'm starting to think, I think during the answers arc, I will just actually read the tips as they show up, instead of leaving them for the end. Because I feel like it would probably be better that way. So this will be the last one where we're reading them at the end. If you struggle, there's no guarantee what will happen. That cliched threat was literally beaten into his head. There you go. Going smoothly. The sound of the car grew closer, followed by the sound of it braking as the engine cut out. At that moment, his up until now lackadaisical footsteps grew decisive as the man in the room dashed up to the wall beside the window and carefully peered outside. It was his comrade's car. Even so, he still didn't relax his guard. Eventually, the sounds of footsteps approached the door. Thump. Thump, thump, thump. That was the passcode. I'm back. Open the door already. Ah, you must be tired. I'm opening it now. After the locks were undone and the door opened, a man appeared, his arms laden with swollen plastic grocery bags. The bags in his hands had Seven Smart written on them, with bread and milk cartons able to be glimpsed within. The contents of those bags were then spread out over the sheet on the floor. I bought some cut noodles, so go boil some water. What's the kid doing? He's been sleeping the whole entire time. Thank God he's not causing any trouble. He did struggle a bit when he was about to shit himself. Don't let him crap his pants. It'd suck if it started smelling like a house in here. Yeah, I know. Check the gag every now and then. We don't want it to get loose, so keep it tight. But not so tight that he stops breathing. I said I know. Huh? Didn't I ask you to pick another can of gas for the portable stove? We're out. Never asked you, idiot. Seriously? Come on, work. Damn it. He rattled the portable stove as he struggled to get it to light. Seeing that, the man who went to buy supplies let out a deep sigh, and with a backwards glance at his sight, began to walk to the corner of the room. The kidnapped boy was sprawled out on a sheet that was spread on the floor. Boy, you doing okay? Of course, the man didn't assume the kid was able to hear the question. That was because the boy's ears were plugged with his eyes and ears thoroughly covered by packing tape. Which, still, that has to suck. Also, his mouth was gagged with a thin, twisted-up towel. Because of that, the boy was unable to close his mouth properly, his cheeks sticky with his own saliva. Of course, that wasn't the only reason. Both his arms were tied tightly behind his back with a leather belt. You seem to be doing okay. At least you're not gonna die. If a grandpa wanted to play tough, we might have had to lop off an ear. It'd be great if we had to. This accent is going all over the place. If the main family says we do, then tough luck. Can't even imagine what kind of cruel things they'd have to do. The family does not have one scratch on them, so it seems it's going to be going well for the time being. The minister is discreetly withdrawing the dam project. The Huni-Maizawa Dam is indefinitely postponed. I wonder when they're letting the boy go, or when we're letting the boy go. I just want to be done with this already. My family seem to be gauging the time, and I don't know when it'll be, but it'll probably be soon. Isn't that great, kid? You'll be let go real soon. The men didn't know if their voices were heard by the boy. For him, there was nothing he could do but continue to sleep to escape his harsh reality. More importantly, what are we going to do about the gas? Can't eat the cup noodles raw? If we're out of gas, say something, jeez. Man, it really goes to show you that Akasawa really didn't need to be there at all. The weather forecast had predicted that it wouldn't rain at all this entire week. It's not that I hate sunny days or anything. Even every day is the same, unchanging, sunny weather. However, nobody would long for a rain cloud or two. Or anybody would. If it's simply clear skies for a week, a month, a year, anybody would long for a rain cloud or two. The weather specialists said that they had carefully scrutinized a large quantity of past data, so it wouldn't be so likely that the forecast would be wrong. I knew as much. But even then, there was occasionally a day where I was hoping it would be wrong as I stared up into the clear blue sky. Was I being mischievous in hoping so? I waited and waited, feeling almost suffocated by the boring blue sky, undisturbed by a single cloud. If I could die from that suffocating feeling, then the population of Earth probably wouldn't have increased at this point. In other words, the only person who was being suffocated by this was me. And so, I welcomed the summer evenings where not even the weather forecast could predict a sudden shower. If I were to explain it like this, would you understand a bit more about how I feel? Let's say that tonight's dinner was going to be curry rice. When did you get here, Keiichi? Why are we in your house? But when you're called down to the dinner table, what was awaiting you was instead an eggplant and bell pepper stir-fry. Yeah, I would be upset. This was just your mother's whim, by the way. I would be delighted by such whimsy. I don't really like eggplants or bell peppers, but still, I would be delighted. I would be like, why? You promised me curry! Why did you lie to me? The fact that the pre-established routine of curry rice had been broken would be amusing. If tonight was repeated 100 times and 100 times you had to eat curry rice, yet for just one night that was changed to an eggplant and bell pepper curry. There's no way you couldn't enjoy that chance of happening. I mean, I don't like bell I don't know about my stance on eggplant. I feel like I haven't had eggplant, but like I wouldn't like the bell pepper. Keiichi's just a psychopath. True. He's just like, whoa, I don't like this food, but whoa. I hate pre-established routines. I really hate when things are all decided beforehand. I have no love for boredom. I always get my hopes up that something today will be different from yesterday, no matter how trivial. It's been decided that this entire week starting today was going to be clear skies. The weather forecast decided upon it, so the god of weather must also feel obliged to do so. But who's to say that a rain cloud might not just show up one day on a whim? It's something that nobody can say for sure, but because that thought remains in the world, a creature such as myself can continue living without being suffocated. I missed this. I missed this kind of talk this whole chapter. Tomorrow would probably be a hot and clear day. However, I'm the only one that knows that predetermined fate. Even with but a slim 1% chance, something changes. Hoping for 1%, I hung upside down weather charms and my sunlight eaves throws. In the end, I spend my days waiting for those unexpected things in life to happen. I pondered why I was waiting for it, or hoping for it. Why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. I've had my fill of clear skies. Then why was I hoping for a rain cloud? The answer was simple. The fact that it was going to be sunny tomorrow was boring. So why was I hoping for a rain cloud? In the end, it doesn't really matter whether it rains or shines tomorrow. Basically, it's just that the rain would wather my heart, which was withered from boredom. That's why, rather than a TV drama where the plot's already been decided, I prefer to look up at the sky. So I believe that was Rika. I could be wrong. But considering Keiichi's not in this chapter at all. Your blood pressure has improved. For you to recover this quickly at your age, I'm rather impressed. At this rate, you'll still be kicking after a couple 100 more years, Oryo-san. The young doctor in his medical coat said that as he undid the blood pressure cuff from the arm of the old woman tucked away in her futon. You're a very good physician, Dr. Erie. If a persistent young old fart like me didn't hurry up and die, I'd just be in the way of you young folk. Ho 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 ho. The old lady, Oryo, laughed faintly with a broad smile on her face. Then, turning towards the sliding door, she called out in a strong voice, Is Shimiko-san or Takeo-san there? Bring some tea for Dr. Edie. The sound of rushed footsteps from the hallway grew closer, until finally the door slid smoothly open. What it revealed was a young girl. It looked like the old lady's granddaughter. Shimiko-san already left for the day. Do you need something? Mion, make some barley tea for Dr. Edie. Okay, got it. Did you want some too, Granny? Or would black tea be better? Would lots of milk and sugar? I'll measure it out myself so you don't have to put any in. Just bring out the sugar jar and some milk when you bring the tea. KK. The girl named Mion, after giving a rather uninterested response with her taskmaster of a grandmother, returned to the hallway. Pour the doctor's tea in the cups for the guests. And make sure you bring a coaster, too. Also, make sure to dry out the outside of the glass, okay? Yeah. You're such a fussy pants. A tired voice wafted a reply from down the hallway. An apathetic tone of voice was far from unusual. The old lady let a wry smile slip across her face as she chided the girl. Jeez, that girl just won't learn. Nothing I never scold her about sticks. Now, Oreo-san. You don't have to say that. Mion-chan is doing her best in her own way, even though she is so young. Her mother was the same way. Can't teach her anything. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. So her mother's mother must be exactly the same, no? The old lady burst out laughing. Her expression showed she hadn't taken the comment the wrong way. Dr. Edie, I'm sorry, but could you open the doors for me? It seems that there's a nice cold breeze outside. The cool chirping of the higurashi had at some point started leaking through the gap in the doorway. Edie stood up and opened the door a bit. A refreshing breeze pushed out the stale air that had built up in the room. It's gotten fairly hot during the day, but the evenings are still rather cool, aren't they? It was an almost downright chilly last night. Yeah, those types of mornings and evenings are another one of Hinamizawa's fine points, Edie replied with a smile as he returned to sit on the cushion beside the old lady. And then the two of them, for a little while, soaked in the voices of the higurashi. Man, I am just replacing words left and right. I'm going to try and live to 100. Until the business with the dam is proper finished, I ain't kicking the bucket just yet. To get to the government to withdraw a decision they've already made is a fairly difficult thing to do. The way this country does things is like turning a millstone. A heavy one at that. A millstone? Don't you know? A millstone. Yeti quickly affirmed that of course he knew that the old lady was talking about. For he knew full well that Oreo didn't like having her stories interrupted. This millstone, you see, can grind anything to pulp. It's rather impressive. But you see, it doesn't turn that easy because it's a rather heavy millstone. Lots of people have to work in unison to get it even to budge. That's that type of millstone. Edie pursed his lips, listening quietly as to what she was saying. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. I'm not convinced that this is a good analogy. Once you start a millstone, you quickly stop if you don't keep pushing hard. I need to look up what one of those, look like. Because I vaguely think I know what it is, but I could be wrong. Eventually, Mion returned with some tea laid out on a tray. Seeing that Odio was talking and in a good mood, she quickly knelt down and laid out the sets for the barley and black tea, careful not to interrupt. That's why when it gets going, it's not that easy to stop. It takes the most effort to move it right before it starts turning. Everybody hates that, so everybody keeps pushing it along without rest. You're talking about friction, right? I get what you're saying. So in other words, if there's some sort of mistake and the millstone suddenly stops turning, to get it turning again takes a great deal of power, more or less. It's a giant circular stone with grooves in it, then another giant circular stone on top of it. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think my mind pulled up the picture correctly. Grand, are you about to admit to me? She's part of the Yakuza, so she's probably killed quite a few people, to be honest. Certainly, to get a project that's been suspended going again takes quite a lot of work. It's a millstone, so it isn't easily stopped. But once it's stopped, it'll never turn again. It's that kind of millstone. I think Eerie talked first, and then it was, I don't know. I don't know who talks when there's no sprites. It'd be nice if there was some sort of way to get that millstone to stop, wouldn't it? When Eerie responded with that, Mion and the old lady suddenly sunk into silence. Eerie, instinctively thinking he had said something rude, searched in a small panic for the words to correct himself. But that silence wasn't the result of rude words. Pardon me. For what crept across Mion and the old lady's faces were contemptuous smiles. The atmosphere surrounding Eerie suddenly froze, leaving him flabbergasted. Thinking that the scornful smiles creeping across both of their faces was the result of some mistake of his, he only grew afraid. I don't know who's laughing. It hadn't been that long at all since he was enveloped by silence. However, unable to stand it, Edie could only let out a weak laugh. Okay, I guessed right. Edie's laugh eventually spread to Mion and the old lady. Not knowing exactly what they were laughing at, their laughter left a lingering chill. The only ones not laughing were the higurashi, who continued their simple and unchanging chorus. That's kind of intimidating, I would say. Yeah, yesterday when we met at the restaurant in Ginza, the topic popped up. That's overstepping your boundaries, isn't it?
Hello, Ellie. How you doing?
They're meddling too much with public safety. If they keep doing that, they're going to set a bad precedent. It seems that Minister Inugai is openly uncomfortable about the way public safety is doing things. The Vice Minister is probably going to say something to that effect during Monday's debate session, but what can you do? We can only have the Director address the Vice Minister. That's why we pay him the big bucks. Back to school. Whoop. Oh, yeah. Bailey's doing that too, so yeah. My heart goes out to you. Good luck. School be tough. Well, if it comes to that, they're going to ask him for proof the minister is being threatened. Sometimes I don't know what side he's on. If he's not on ours, then what? Well, he's probably getting some pressure from the minister. We're probably just going to proceed with the investigation while he sweats it out in the vice minister's office and buys us some time. He might be so wrung out to dry that all that's left is the dregs, though. So, how's the investigation going? All the juicy leads I was pinning my hopes on turned out to be duds. Honestly, I'm at a loss. There are reports that the Hinamizawa Dam project have been showing up a lot lately in the minister's press releases. So what about that? Well, you say showing up, but it's really more of a very slight feeling that something's strange. He just happened to mention it during his speech at the prefectural forum, so it just might be something that he was mentioning because it was relevant at the time. If I remember correctly, an organization or local organization there was presenting quite violently, no? The Onagafuchi Defense Alliance. I think Akasaka-kun was investigating that. I think those guys probably could be behind what's happening now. Even if we can't say there's anything overtly suspicious about them, it might not be prudent to remove them from the picture. Akasaka-kun reported in passing that he couldn't deny that possibility. What? Hi, Majima! How you doing up there?
Also, hello, Moki. How you doing?
Then isn't there a merit for investigating them? We're going through everything with a fine-toothed comb, so if there's one of the suspicious groups that are left, we'll basically have to. Oh, that's a good idea. Big stretch. Big stretch. Thank you for the stretch, Redeem Moki. Oh, I almost pulled something in my side. Stretch and get them fingies out there. Yes, the fingies. Thankfully, they're not cracking, but I'm doing the finger wigglies. You just can't see. Oh, my thumb's popped. Well, they're not the only group we should investigate, right? If we're just talking about groups that are suspicious as Onigafuchi, there's quite a few of them. We don't have the men, the time, or the money for it all. I'll try asking for more details from Akasaka-kun. I feel like we should pay some extra attention to the Defense Alliance. He's reported that he's established a report with the villagers. It also seems like he's collaborating with the local police. Keep your contact with Akasaka-kun on the down low. Also, if there's anything in his info that merits investigation, it's possible we can send reinforcements. Got it. Sorry, Chief Kataoka. There's a phone call from the director. Should I transfer it over here? No, it's okay. I'll head over there. Yes, hello? I feel like that was probably the phone call of the wife being dead. I could be wrong. What's in the box? Do you believe that there are choices in life? That there are many people who lament the following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people lament as such, I cast off as another trivial worry. If you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. You can do it, type. Shuzu never give up into Google?
You're telling Ellie and Bailey to do that. Yeah.
Oh, is that like fisherman guy that's like, you can do it? Or is it a different one, I wonder? Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there are two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? I think I would gravitate to the blue box. If they're like the same kind of box, I think I would go for the blue. A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of you opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then, after examining the shape and features of each and pondering a great many other things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which blocks would you open? Red or blue? If you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be the colors are a trap, make you wary of the red box and have you open the blue. I would just open the blue because I like blue. A trap? Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See? Now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between the red and the blue that you've started wishing that there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know the contents of the box you don't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red box or the blue box? It's alright, you won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. Oh my gosh, we get a choice! Wild. Well, I already said I wanted to open the blue box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now, open up the box you chose. Inside the box was a stick of chewing gum. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets to Hawaii might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box was empty and this box was the winner. I like to think that maybe the red box had a severed head in it, and so I got a stick of gum. Being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, you pop it into your mouth and start chewing it happily. Yeah! So what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't regret choosing the blue box. But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box and the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. I mean, in a gamer sense, yes, I would go for the other route. But in a, like, if this was actually my result and I got a box with a piece of gum in it, it's just like, not too bad. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See? Choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? I don't know. I think it's too bad. Or I think it's not too bad. I feel like the writing is very much trying to encouraging you to use his tip to check the other. Do we want to see what was in the red box? Let's see if it'll let us, or if it's just like, you came back to make the different decision, didn't you? Let's see. Okay, let's see what was in the red box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you chose this color, didn't you? As soon as you choose, the other box disappears. So I'm giving you the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box was a piece of caramel. Oh, I like that choice better. Right now you're thinking that's it? That's right, the contents of the red box and the blue box are a piece of caramel and a stick of chewing gum. It knows! Oh no. You might have thought you made the wrong choice before, but now seeing that them together like this, you can't really say that either choice was the wrong one. Yeah! Oh my gosh, Higurashi. I love it. I love it. Yeah, caramel's better though. Sorry, I'm just glancing through the chat. Narrator, I feel like you could give me both the boxes if you wanted to. I mean, technically, yeah. Caramel is bland. No, they both have their purposes. Like, if I want a piece of gum and I get a caramel, I would probably be like, I'll save this for later. Because, like, I don't know. You might have thought you made the wrong choice before, but now seeing them together like this, you can really say that either choice was the wrong one. Well, because everyone has their personal preferences. If you prefer caramel to gum, for example, you're definitely thinking of choosing to open the box again based on that preference. The clear choices you wanted are basically this. No! Oh! My face is all smudged there. How could you do this to me? We were talking about gum and caramel and you froze my face. Basically this. The selfish desire to open both boxes and compare the contents, then pick the one that most suited to you. But you see, reality is the same as this game. If you pick one, the one you didn't choose disappears, so there's no way you could check the result. If at that time, if you had done this, or perhaps if you had done that, then it wouldn't be hard to imagine that you could be happier, or perhaps less happy, than you are right now. In the end, you only had the pleasure of approving of or being disappointed by the choice that you did make. But that's fine. After all, didn't you enjoy the thrill of making the choice? If, like now, you knew the contents of both boxes, then the choice between the red or the blue box would just be a waste of time. Because instead of this boring game about boxes, you could be looking at the quickly changing evening summer sky, listening to the distant sound of thunder, and pondering if it's going to rain or not. That would be much more fun. The fact that it actually had us make a choice, I like that. The game did call me out. But I mean, I don't know, Moki brought it up, like, the writing is telling me that you should look it up and look at the other one. But still, I liked that result that we got. Yes. So the wake will be from 6 p.m. tomorrow, and the service will be the day from afternoon until 1. The venue will be Okinomiya Ceremony Hall. I see. I think, yeah, the game was just like, go live your life. What are you doing? I see. It's Deputy Mayor Ikezawa's grandson funeral we're talking about. We have to pay our respects. Mion, I'll have you go in my stead. Oh, this was the old lady who was talking. Okay, got it. Should I wear mourning clothes? How much should I bring for the funeral offering? You can go in your school uniform. Make sure you button up properly. For the money, 100,000 yen. They've done a lot for us. I heard the bugs and thought they were real, which was confusing because I'm inside. Oh, the Higurashi. Yeah. That reminds me of the Impossible Quince Undertale. Yeah, definitely has the Undertale vibes. Let's see. Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering. Ikezawa-san's been a prudent person ever since his days as head of the Okinomiya Municipal Office. Even if those government types paid me a visit, they'd always stay outside. But whenever I offered Ikezawa-san a cup of tea, he'd come inside and carefully listen to what I had to say. He always lent a proper ear to what people had to say. Others should learn to... I accidentally pressed enter. To be like him. The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear that they were paying attention to Odio as Odio reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Odio's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally. How young was Deputy Mayor Ikezawa's grandson when he died? 11 years, apparently. Odio closed her eyes and shook her head lightly, lamenting the loss of such a young life. If I recall correctly, he said he only had one grandchild. How sad. There's nothing worse for a parent than outliving their offspring. You're really nice to other people, Granny. If Shion and I died, would you be this sad? Don't be stupid. Saying something like that is bad luck. Having got the reaction she respected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles. We'll take our leave for today, then. We'll be by tomorrow evening at 5 to pick you up. Until then, please excuse us. After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye. They're gone. It must be rough for them to pay you a courtesy visit, Granny. It would have been nice if they just broke the news over the phone. Well, it was true that Odio Sonozaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As the voting bloc, they numbered in several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Or pander, rather. Unlike Mion, however, Odio was looking longingly up at the sky from the veranda. What's the matter? Are you going senile? I just thought that no matter whose grandchild it was, I'd feel sorry for them. Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude. Mion, you know, that minister's grandson. How long has it been since he was abducted? 4 days, maybe? Odio let out another deep sigh. He may be the grandchild of a bitter enemy, but I still feel sorry for him. Really? That's enough of a warning. We should bring this to an end soon. The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to ascertain Odio's will, looked into her eyes. Odio, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's. I want some tea. Could you call for some? Some of that chocolate, too. Mion gave a small nod, then turned around. Shimiko-san, are you there? Grandma wants some tea. Grandma wants some tea. Can you prepare some? From far away, a voice responded in the affirmative. My model messed up. I was just readjusting my sitting. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing. Hello? This is Mion. Yeah. Is my father there? Very kind person. Patients admitted to the hospital can only accept calls at fixed times. That's why she wouldn't be receiving a call from him today. Yesterday, she had teased him that he got lonely easily, so he might have struggled with the idea of calling her sooner. That was much easier to imagine rather than that he might have been too busy to call. Because he's just that type of person. Yukie, whispering that, smiled to herself. The announcement that visiting hours were over played over the hospital intercom along with some music. She exchanged pleasantries with the family of the patient that was staying in the same room as her. Probably eager for his mother to be discharged, their small child was wearing a beaming smile. That child's mother was pregnant in the bed next to mine. That may be her new brother or sister. They were probably ready to burst with the expectations, dreams, and worries of having a new sibling. The joys of a growing family. Bathing in those warm feelings, I stroked my own belly, which was had grown quite large. I am uncomfortable with having this part being first person. I had talked with him about how many children we wanted to have. We talked about how if we had 3, it would be certainly lively. However, there was an inescapable worry of whether I would be able to handle giving birth that many times. Isn't there a mother out there who would hate to give birth because of that worry, though? Yukie, smiling as she said that to herself, gently stroked her stomach. The Metropolitan Police Public Safety Division. The place where the man's sense of justice had led him. The person was actually a very gentle, very fragile person. He didn't talk much about the specifics, but I didn't think he was suited for the assignment he was on right now. But as long as he said he was going to try his best, I would watch over him warmly. Your father, you see, is a very hard worker, you know? Kuchi-kuchi-ku. Yukie seemed to be enjoying herself as she tucked her own belly. Okay, what perspective are we from? Because we're definitely not Yukie, I don't think. Unless it keeps switching between the two, in which case that's very confusing. At that moment, Yukie suddenly became concerned about something and looked out the window. It used to be that time, long ago. She remembered when she was little, around this time in the countryside where her grandmother lived. The higurashi would fill the air with their chorus. This was the middle of Tokyo. Unlike in the countryside, she couldn't hear the song of the higurashi, but for some reason at that moment, Yukie felt like she wanted to hear that song. Those dang higurashi! Whoops. I accidentally beeped instead of zoomed in. Those dang higurashi! It seems the third-person limited POV. It's very weird. I don't like third-person limited, where it's just like me, Yukie. There was something I didn't like about my child. I first realized that when I started writing these things down. Maybe third-person omniscient. With so few characters, it really doesn't signify, right? It's just like Yukie. It's like, who am I? I'm not the woman next to her pregnant, but I am a pregnant woman in this scene. I don't know what's going on. Whoa. There was something I didn't like about my child. I first realized it when I started writing these things down. They never warn you about it in any books about raising children, but they aren't just a plaything. If they aren't able to feel loved even when they're not doing so exactly as their parents want them to, then those parents are failures. And this wasn't something like that, though. How can I say it? It's probably harder to express with mere words. I just want my child to be average. Oh wait, they had an I in prose? I missed that. Yeah, like every so often they were like, I. It's like, I rubbed my belly or something, and it's just like, Yukie looked out in the window, and it's like, okay, am I Yukie? Am I not Yukie? I want the child to be average. As long as they aren't falling behind, there wasn't any need for them to excel at anything. As long as they acted appropriately for their age, I would have been fine with it. But my child had been different ever since kindergarten. While the children in her class were running around in excitement about the field trip the next day, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the other kids broke the equipment for the athletics festival and were apologizing fervently, she only wore a bored look on her face, aloof and distant. When the teacher was reading a fun picture book, only she wasn't smiling. Even if they all got to eat a delicious bento, only she wasn't happy. If it was only this, it would still be the realm of understanding. However, what I don't understand about my child is that if the aforementioned situations happened again, they'd now act in a manner befitting their age. I don't understand the principle behind that as a parent. Why were they so indifferent about that field trip, but happy about this one? Why were they so indifferent about that picture book, but happy about this one? Why were they indifferent about that bento, but happy about this one? The former and latter in each situation seem exactly the same to me. There were even times when I thought the former was better. I don't understand that child's feelings. During parent-teacher meetings, the teacher always says the same thing, and I would always respond that I don't understand my own child, and we would always mope together. My husband, who always the optimist, once said that a young child's feelings are different from an adult's, so if there are some things we don't understand, we shouldn't worry about it. I lament his lack of urgency. One day, when I was in a good mood, I took the effort to prepare a menu that my child would enjoy, but she only smiled with a vague expression of disinterest. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. Ma'am, do not hit your child. On a day when the weather was nice, the laundry I had hung up to dry was blown by a large gust of wind, causing the entire line to fall down. But she, watching me try to pick up the laundry in a panic, stood there laughing. That attitude frankly made me angry, so I hit her on the head. Stop? I think the same sort of thing happened countless times. Before I knew it, my child was only able to look at me with an indifferent expression on her face. I regret the fact that I had been a bad mother. Thinking I should regain her trust, I thought to get back a little by little with light interactions. Seeing her do some sort of craft work on the veranda, I called out to her. These past 2 days have been nice and sunny. The air feels nice, doesn't it? Yeah, that really escalated quickly. Have you seen Plain? I watched a little bit of the anime, but then I heard the anime wasn't that good of an adaptation. So I'm going to be reading/playing through it for the first time after we finish Higurashi. So that's gonna be a nice experience. That child, with an indifferent look on her face I hated so much, looked up at me for a moment, then without a word returned to immersing herself in her craft work. Up until now, I would have hit her on the head just for that. Yeah, the anime is garbage, the manga is great though, and the end too. Yeah. I'm excited to finally experience the visual novel. I held myself back. What are you making? Is that a doll?
A leather charm.
The child was using inserts from the newspaper to deftly make some paper weather charms, rather. The forecast hadn't called for rain, but that child, in her own way, was praying that these sunny days would continue. Being able to understand my own child for the first time in a while, I couldn't hide my own happiness. Bringing out a ball of yarn, I began to hang my child's cute weather charms from the eaves of the house. It's no good, Rika. The heads are too heavy, you see? They become reverse weather charms now. If they're like this, they'll call the rain instead of the sun. When I started to take them down, my child tugged at the hem of my shirt as if to stop me.
That's because I made them to be upside down. They're fine.
But Rika, if they're upside down, they won't be a charm that calls for a sunny day, you know?
I was making a charm for it to rain, so they're fine.
I desperately suppressed the emotions welling up inside me. I was trying desperately to understand my child. Like, she likes rain, don't be mad. And just remember the scene when you get to Umineko.
Okay.
I will do my best to. You may or may not have to remind me, but I will try my best to remember. Oh, I see. The morning glories in the garden were starting to get a little wilted from all the sun, so you wanted some sun, right? How do you do so many voices so consistently? You're just that good. I do my best. Sometimes I don't do that well. Because I know with some of the side characters, it's just like, today they have this voice, next day they have another voice. But I do my best. The child turned to me with an expression that I hated the most.
I got bored of the clear weather.
I don't understand. I just can't understand that child. Man, she be struggling. Oh, hi, Crimson. Nice of you to finally join us. How you doing? I'm not bullying you, Crimson. But yeah, how you doing? During the family council, she buried herself under Orio's futon again. Right? It's just like, it's too sunny. Sometimes rain is really nice, Mom. Jeez. Orio-san dotes on her unwaveringly. No matter whatever insolence my child commits, she doesn't mind. It's almost as though my child is a kitten or something. Orio dotes on her exactly like you would a kitten. As her mother, I chided her for doing that. Until Orio-san had said 3 times that it was fine, I chided her as a formality. Of course, she never lends an ear to any of my chidings. Knowing that Orio-san's standing was far above mine, she behaves like that. I don't like the cunning that's unbefitting of her age either. Doing good with studying early because classes started for me today. Oh man, so many people doing school now. That's rough. In any case, not only Orio-san, but the rest of the old folk in the village spoil her too much. Oof, nobody know. Wait, what? What? Why did they time you out? Because you accidentally cast silence on yourself. Oh my gosh. Okay, let me untime you. Oh my gosh. Nobody knows 9,000. There you go. You can speak now. I've decasted your silence spell. Is that an added feature? I think that's just by default. I didn't know that happened. Right? I'm curious on what a nat 20 does. It's just like, you have given yourself VIP. I don't know if it would be able to, but like... But that's funny. Took himself out, right? Now we know that there's danger in that D20. One day, I was surprised. By chance, On the way back home from some shopping, I saw her by herself just outside a candy shop. My own child suddenly grabbed a snack, opened the package right there and started eating it. Rika, you have to pay for that! She didn't make any attempt to pay for it, and she didn't even think of looking around. It didn't even feel like she was shoplifting, more like she was just she was brazenly eating snacks that were offered to her. When I began to admonish my child, the elderly shop owner appeared and covered for her. The owner gave the ridiculous excuse that he had said it was okay for the child to eat any of the snacks out by the entrance, so it was fine. When I tried to pay for the snacks that my child had eaten, the owner refused my money. During the exchange, some old folks had suddenly gathered around, and it began to feel like I was one in the wrong. The elderly people all put their hands together reverently in front of my child and repeatedly voiced their respects. I was born into the Furude family, so it wasn't like I didn't know why she was being treated specially. When I was still young, it was something I heard often from my grandmother. If by chance the child that I gave birth to was a girl, that child would be the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. All the older folk believe that she's the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama and spoil her rotten. And not only did they spoil her, but they even told her that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. That she has a divine power and threw all sorts of strange folk tales her way. So she may have begun to believe herself that she was a special existence. I went around and told everybody that it wasn't good for her upbringing, so to stop tell her all these strange things. But there was no unrooting the elderly people's deep-seated superstitions. There was like one typo in there that threw me all off. I told my child not to listen to them, but it ended up being that she stopped listening to me. Between all the old folks in the village who would dote on her and myself who always scolded her, there was no wonder who she would listen to. There was no mistaking that the reason she had become strange was because of the elderly villagers. There was no doubt that they had shoved her full of strange folk tales and superstitions since she was young. If it wasn't for that, there was no doubt my child would have been cute and normal. You're just jealous because you weren't the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. One sunny parent-teacher day, there was a cooking class, and my child was making curry rice with a practiced hand. While the other children her age were awkwardly using kitchen knives, that child was wielding hers deftly. The teacher approached me with a smile on her face, saying it must be a result from learning it at home. I managed to play it off with a vague smile and a nod in response. That was because I had never once taught my child how to cook curry rice. Even then, she was peeling vegetables with a practiced hands, adding them into a pot in order which took longer to cook. For a normal parent, they might unintentionally clap their hands together, happy at their child's actions. But in my case, it was different. There was no mistaking that somebody had taught her how to make curry rice when I wasn't taking care of her. Thinking that, I quietly fell into an unpleasant mood. When I asked, it seemed she could also sew and do laundry. I'd never taught her how to do those, and again, never saw her do it around the house. Be it cooking or sewing or the laundry. Again, that was probably because the elderly villagers taught her all sorts of rubbish when I wasn't looking. And not only that, they probably taught her all sorts of strange superstitions trying to prop her up as the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. At some point you'd think she'd ask, how do you know this, and maybe get an answer. Maybe Rika would say something to change her fate. Maybe. Higurashi has so many characters that just don't do the basic thing that you would think of doing. I said as much to my husband, suggesting we should keep our child away from the elderly folk, but my husband, who was in the position of being the head priest at the Furude shrine, had little power against the elderly who supported it. He took the rather uncommitted stance of saying that as long as she was being doted upon, wasn't it fine? I argued against that she was our child and should be completely a normal girl. That what the elderly were expecting, that she was the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama, was simply odd. The elderly villagers believed the child was divine powers. We would discuss the weather for the following day, but there were many times when I left the house without an umbrella and came back soaking wet. Rather than having clairvoyance, that was just secondhand knowledge from her just watching the news all the time. The things that she knew that she shouldn't have known were just a result of people who were trying to indoctrinate her and the people who were gossiping getting together in the village. Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do in the series. If people did things that would make sense, you know, stuff wouldn't have happened. There wouldn't be really a sense for a story. There wouldn't have been a start. However, there certainly were days when everybody thought it was going to be sunny all day and that child would stubbornly not go out without an umbrella. It would occasionally rain, and in the end, we would be saved. There might also have been times where Rika knew of major accidents in foreign countries faster than the news did. I thought that she might have heard it break over the radio or something. Knowing things she shouldn't have, something like that, was in front of me right now, wasn't it? That child was making curry rice when there shouldn't have been anybody who taught her how to. No, that couldn't possibly be the case. Somebody had taught her, indoctrinated her. When I wasn't taking care of her, somebody had indoctrinated Rika with something. Furude-san's curry is absolutely splendid. I'll give it a gold star.
Mipa!
Where did you learn to cook, Furude-san? At home?
Yes, at home.
The other parents in attendance were impressed. Lies, all lies. I didn't teach her anything. Who was it? Who was the person who completely indoctrinated my child? She was my normal average daughter, not the living incarnation of Oyashiro-sama. And she never asked. She never got the chance. So now, in the last few minutes, we get the all-star cast. And why isn't she telling everybody that she didn't teach Rika? That seems significant. Yeah. Like, Thank you very much for playing Higurashi when they cry Himatsubushi. Oh my, no matter what anybody else says, I was the star of the scenario this time. On top of what they added some nice jazzy theme music. If you can't laugh here, where can you laugh?
Anyway, hasn't there been too much of you lately, Oishi?
Huh? What do you mean by that? Rika-san? She meant that literally.
It's rather impudent of you to try and hog the spotlight here, even though you already had it all the screen time. Besides Rika-chan, who's in the main heroine, everybody else didn't really have any appearances, did they?
I heard that this time the scenario was a bit of a side story, but I didn't think they would leave out the main cast this much.
You didn't have it too bad, Nyon-san. At least you had a few appearances, did you not? Both Rena-san and I didn't even make a cameo.
I mean, your name was mentioned.
Rena still shows up on the covers a lot, so she's still okay. Exactly what are you trying to say then? That I was the only outcast with no appearance? Is that it? Mipa! Wah!
Wait, where's my automaton? I don't know where my automaton is. No! Where did I put him? I lost my boy! Oh no!
They only treated me horribly. Wah! How sad! How sad! Wah! They'll probably just keep treating you worse and worse until you finally drop down to a supporting role.
Oh, look at my little face. I'm strongly guessing that Ryukishi had a general idea of how the series would go and wrote that outline. He probably originally viewing a much larger role and then later found out it wasn't actually needed. Probably. That or it was just like, I don't know, because in the last chapter it did say that there was a next chapter being worked on, so this was just kind of like a middle chapter. Like it was an extra one. I don't know. Yeah, Setsuko sucks.
Wah! That's just too much. That's not true. There's lots of people who like Setsuko-chan. They won't treat you that horribly, okay? I don't like being treated like this. I think you'll probably have lots of appearances next time. So cheer up, okay?
But I heard that the scenario was supposed to be somewhat of a bonus story. But is it really? I think that things kind of got complicated.
The story was difficult for me to understand. Yeah, what I found the hardest to believe was that the year before the string of mysterious deaths, Rika-chan already knew about them.
Which means all the incidents were part of someone's scenario. That's a pretty important piece of information.
It's probably because I'm a shrine maiden, so I knew the future from Oyashiro-sama's divine revelations.
For somebody like me who believes in the theory that it was the work of human culprits, I'd like to deny that.
I believe in the curse, so Rika-chan, who's the living incarnation of the deity that protects Hinamizawa, Oyashiro-sama, could have divine power is a possibility, I think.
Nope. For someone who thinks it's the work of a man, that kind of unfounded fantasy will not stand. All the incidents were caused by people. There's no curse or magic or aimbots or cheat codes.
It would be wonderful if I could use magic, though. If that's Rika-chan, I could go along with that.
Well, for the people who believe it was the work of humans, the ending was a big revelation. From the first incident until Rika-chan was killed in the great disaster, everything was scripted. Knowing that it's all one big accident vastly increases the amount of material you can hypothesize with.
I think that the prophecy is proof in itself that Rika-chan has some divine power. In other words, it's proof that there's some mysterious power at work in Hinamizawa. I think it's proof that the incidents weren't the work of humans alone. The inside of my head is so muddled, I don't know what's going on.
Oh, that's right. More importantly, that expression that Rika-chan was wearing this time, it was super scary, wasn't it?
Meep. Yeah, I was surprised too. I never thought that cute little Rika-chan would laugh like that.
Hey, just for a little bit. Could you show us that face one more time?
I don't want to.
I don't want her to do that outside of the story. What? What is this? A blackout? Nobody move. Any weird movements and you'll come face to face with a combo trap that... pendulum with a landmine and an electric chair with a buzzsaw. What? Satoko, what are you doing this time?
Satoko? What's the meaning of this? Oh. We'll now be starting the after party for anybody who didn't have an appearance this time.
Thanks for the wondrous introduction. Hello again, everybody. I didn't think I'd have to make an appearance here, of all places. I'm delighted, though. Satoko-chan, thank you.
Well, hello, everybody. Yeah? Oh my! Didn't I warn you not to move?
Ryugu-san, are you okay? Oh man, she looks good in the Steam graphics. Look at her. She looks really pretty. Hojo-san, you don't have to go this far.
Oh. The grudge of somebody not making an appearance is a terrible thing. Satoko has lots of appearances in the main scenario.
Yeah, they did not do her dirty. The grudge is somebody not making an appearance. Damn it, when was she able to set this many traps?
Maybe that when this place was selected as the venue for the after party, at that point my traps were already set.
Oh, I know. There's somebody behind you pulling the strings. There is, isn't there? Come out. Is left arm Kamuda coming back? Probably not. I mean, maybe in one of the answer arcs, but I think it's unlikely. Hello, my sister. How are you doing?
Oh, it's Sion-chan. Hello. Yeah.
Oh no!
I feel sorry for her falling for the same trap twice.
I thought it was you, Shion. Even though you're penciled in to be the main character in the next scenario, this is an outrage. Now you've gone and done it. Even if it is only the bonus scene before the answers arc, I can't let my sister have all the appearances. I'm not that generous, you know. Well, in any case, I just let Setsuko start a little something something. Grr. Shion, what is it that you want? Let's just say I'm securing myself a little safety buffer. The other day, for some reason, you were steadily getting more votes in the popularity poll.
Yep. In the first half of the Watanagashi chapter, there were a lot of people getting infatuated with Mita.
When your malicious side made its appearance, all the players finally started noticing my charm. Setsuko also earned a good reputation during the Tatari Goroshi arc. Then Enrika-chan have a strong baseline of support. Your popularity has long since faded away. That's why I thought I'd take the time now to crush you and Satoko, who have been getting too many votes for my comfort. So I came up with this elaborate plan.
Huh? Shion-chan, what did you just say right now? You're going to crush me as well?
You're a little slow to notice, aren't you, Shorty? Here you go.
What?
Yeah. How was the harp noise there? Goodbye, all you regulars. Hello to all you irregular folk. All the main characters are done for. Shion-chan, you don't have to go that far, probably. Now, Jiro-san. It's interesting, so just let it be. The number of appearances for the both of us is going up. You know? Jiro-san, do you not like being by my side? That's not true.
Chie-sensei, did Shi-chan pay you off too?
I'm sorry, Ryugu-san. Shion-san said she would make me a new segment called Teach Me, Chie-sensei, starting with the next scenario, so I just... Well then, who should I dispose of next in the most embarrassing manner? Maybe Satoko, since she helped me set this all up?
I won't allow that! Yeah!
Oh, I guess it was Iri that did that.
Good coach! He seems somehow reliable for once.
I, Kyosuke Iri, should not allow any aggression against Satoko-chan. I may also just be a supporting character, but I don't think you can persuade me so easily. Oh. Then you're saying you want to withdraw from being the lead in live performance Satoko's maid training dress-up chapter that we planned on filming after this? Shion-sama, I, Kyosuke Iri, shall follow you to the depths of hell. That was fast. Well then, with this, I'm holding all the cards, even in this after-party scene too. I'll have everything proceeded as I see fit. Huh? We're missing somebody. Shion-sama, Rena-san isn't here. She escaped at some point. There she is. Ryugu-san, didn't I just tell you you shouldn't move? Rena-san, Chan, I wouldn't do anything to hurt you, but it's easier if you don't resist.
Sorry, but all this is really bizarre.
What are you trying to do? The light switches? I see. You're planning to do something when the light room's pitch black, aren't you? Resistance is futile. Rena-san, you should stop your pointless resistance and just come along peacefully. If you make me angry enough, then not only will you suffer, but so will my dear sister as well. You can't do anything just by turning off the lights. Rena, I'm sorry, but do as they say.
That's all right. Don't worry. By turning off the lights, we can reverse this situation. Reverse the situation? Exactly. What are you scheming?
Rena-san, you're pretty good at making me laugh. Then why don't you go ahead and try? Show me what you're going to how you're going to turn this around.
You're spoiled, Chicha. Even if you didn't have any appearances in the main scenario, you've had so much screen time during this after party. You're spoiled.
When exactly are you saying I was spoiled?
You don't understand, Chicha. Even if it's just the after party, you still have an appearance, and you also appeared a lot in the previous scenarios. There's somebody who resents you from the depths of hell, who can't forgive you. Listen, can't you hear it, Shi-chan? That's right! I understand now.
I get it. Kei-chan. That's right. He never has any appearances during the after parties. There's no way Kei-chan would allow somebody to monopolize the after parties all by to themselves without him. I see. So, how is Kei-chan going to appear here when he doesn't even have a character art? It couldn't possibly be that they'd insert new character art just for this.
That's just your self-centered way of thinking, Shi-chan.
No. If the lights are turned off, Shie-sensei, hold Rena-chan back. Huh?
Huh? It's too late. Save me, Keiichi-kun!
I'm kind of messing up Rena's voice. That voice. Kei-chan? Rena, you have my thanks. When even the moon abandons the land and shrouds it in true darkness. The demon lord of the darkest black, Keiichi Maebara, shall appear! I see. If it's like this, he can appear even if he doesn't have any character art. There's no character or background art, so it's very easy on the production staff, but not easy on me when I don't know who's the talking! Oh, I so hope they have Keiichi show up and say cosplaying disguised as Rihanna or some such. That would have been funny. Shion! You act like you're the main character in a tragedy, from but my point of view, you're more like a comedy. It seems like you've gotten a little carried away. Every after party, without any character art, without any sort of appreciation. Witness my anger, my grudge, and all of my sorrow. I shall instill it all upon you. It almost feels like Keiji-kun is doing some sort of bad guy transformation sequence. This isn't some kind of transformation. I'll have you know I've always been a demon lord. Oh no, he's a Chunimbyo. And as of right now, this world which is enveloped within darkness shall dance upon the palm of my hand. Within this world of darkness, there are none who can oppose me.
Keiji-kun's kind of scary.
Scary. The age of the frightening Higurashi has come to an end. From here on out begins the drawing of a perverted and cutie Higurashi. What did you say? Maebara-sama! Bring me with you! You know it, coach. Then, as a first step, I'll show our Dr. Oh no. Yeah? What is this? The Takano-san is in a miniskirt nurse outfit, and it's not some pink one like you'd find in a porno. He knows what he's doing. It's white. Internal screaming. Even though she's a nurse, she doesn't appear in the outfit once during the maid scenario. You've got to be kidding me! Well then, on to the next target. Rena! This hasn't changed the situation at all. This just turned into a different type of crisis.
I can't do anything in this darkness.
Now then, who should I make wear what next? Maybe a nice school uniform, gym clothes, school swimsuit, triple combo. Maebara-sama, you're the best. How about a bunny girl or a campaign girl costume? No, lingerie could be good too. No, wait. How about just about making everybody naked? But of course, leave the Whoa, that's a good idea. You know your stuff, coach. I feel like we're finally seeing eye to eye here. Wait, Maebara-san. No. Wait. What's left arm? What's left arm? What's his face? Call me Hale from now on. Wait, no, not. Okay, they're just using the same They're using the same nickname. Okay, call me Ill from now on. Call me Dr. Ill. Kay! You can't forget about us. Tommy and Corrado are already on your side, Kay. Tommy, Corrado, we're all finally here. The Elite Four have arrived. What is going on? Finally, with Kay at their head, the evil Elite Four made their grand entrance. With the complete darkness, the demon lord of the darkest black, Keiji Maebara, was finally able to reach the surface world. His magical power was without equal. In this darkness, nobody could stand against him. All must bow. Will the heroines be unable to escape this darkness and be forced to submit to the will of the Demon Lord, forced to wear embarrassing outfit after embarrassing outfit, being used as life-size dress-up dolls for all eternity? That's very sus. That's great. More! By the way, the school swimsuits are the classic type, right? I won't forgive you if they're the competitive swimming style. Damn it. Shion, thanks to you it ended up like this, so do something about it. It's alright, sis. Kei-chan isn't the only one who can unleash their true power amid the darkness. Huh? Did we have such a convenient ally? You're rather impertinent, Shion Sonozaki. Also, if you were expecting help from the principal, that's too bad. 'Tis the ultimate desire of young men. If you call yourself a man, do your best is written on this nice little authorization slip here. Of course, you won't be able to rely on the newcomer Asakasa either. He's been on a private couple's hot springs vacation his wife's family set up for them since yesterday. In other words, all the bases are covered. You're so naive, Kei-chan. Even characters who have art are able to reveal their true form in the darkness. Chie-sensei! That's how it is, Maebara-kun. It's dark, so I can't really tell, but it seems like Chie-sensei's outfit is different. What are those? All those swords in her hands. They couldn't be. Any more than that is a secret.
Any more than that is a secret. Nipa.
Maebara-kun, that was just a little too much mischief on your part. The church can't overlook any more than this. Wait a minute. This here. There's no way, right? That's cheating. That's against the rules. Hey, she can't do this, right? Wait, you can't use that big one. Her archetype was set up invincibility? The seventh... Oh no, the washing machine. That was so fun. It got so sus, but that was so fun.
Hello again. Thank you very much for playing Higurashi When They Cry.
Himitsu Bushi.
Or Himatsu Bushi. I think you already know this. The Higurashi When They Cry is a type of visual novel without any choices. Therefore, compared to adventure-type visual novels with branching routes to take, it's much closer to the experience of a book or a movie. Because of that, there is the option out there that this should not be called a game per se. If you're just watching it like a book or a movie, Higurashi When They Cry really isn't a game, true. That's why, as you know, there are lots of mysteries referenced through the course of the experience. When you challenge those, this work will become a proper game. All the players have the privilege of scrutinizing this mystery-packed story from all sorts of angles. For example, forming a theory about the mysteries during the course of the story, sharing them with your friends, and receiving those theories in return could be fun. In any case, the next chapter starts the answer arcs. We've tentatively called it Miyakashi, which it ended up being named. But answers are a sad thing. Based on what is revealed, all the possibilities that you were allowed to imagine until now will suddenly become refined down to a few. Based on that logic, we think that right here, before the answers arc, it's probably where people can enjoy this work we call Higurashi When They Cry the most. If by chance, while you're reading this, you already have the Miyakashi chapter in hand, please enjoy hypothesizing, theorizing, and fantasizing to the fullest before you start. That's where the real charm of the series takes place. Sorry for saying something so impudent. There's nothing better we'd like for you to do than enjoy Higurashi when they cry. Well then, have a nice and pleasant night. We're waiting for you all in Hinamizawa. If you come and play with Anana, I'd love to go treasure hunting together. Howoo!
That was so sweet. I think someone dies. Probably, yeah. I don't know. Maybe the answer arc has only good things happen. But now it is after 6, so it is time for us to close Higurashi and find someone to raid. So let's see who's streaming right now. Oh, we got the big boys. Let me see. Let me make sure that there's nobody being cut off that is being hidden, because I just have a short list that we will see. Ooh. Of course, they're playing Phasmophobia. Okay. I think we're gonna raid Amma. Amma's always very sweet to raid. But yeah, thank you. I have this cute voice going on. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining me for the last questions arc, technically, of Higurashi. Oh wait, let me I don't want to do sus raid, but like, I don't know. We'll do a dragon raid. If someone else has a better idea, feel free to share it, and I might grab that one instead. But we will do dragon raid with a wave this time. I think that would be good. What was I saying? Oh heck. But anyway, thank you for joining. Wednesday is going to be my next stream, and then we are going to be playing, we're going to be finishing Sonic Adventure, and then we're going to be going on to Sonic Adventure 2. I feel like there was something that I was saying, but I can't remember what. No, I'm sad. I don't know where my automaton is, so I can't play you guys out. But yeah, thank you for joining me. I don't know when we'll start on the answers arc. I think I'm gonna like wait a little bit. But anyway, I love you guys. I'm gonna see you. I'm gonna see you. Escape from the city.